400 episodes, almost 2.5 million views. Here's to you guys for being a part of the army of spies. Ready? Let's go. Okay, it looks like we've already got a few people on there. Where is everybody at? A few of you have already kind of been reporting, but the roll call thing is so fun because we've got people all over the world in the army of spies. Truck Donald says nice whiskey from Japan. Yeah, I think you can get that one probably globally now. It's to be honest, I like a lot of Japanese whiskeys. That one's not my favorite, which is why I added to coffee. Added coffee. That's Hatozaki small batch. Not my favorite at all. Truckdano is in Portland. Isaac Grimmett is in Utah. We've got in North Dakota. Renee Erdia is in North Dakota. We got Timmy is in Canada. Good to see you, man. Patrick is in Malaysia. Balkar is in London. Boris is in Sweden. Cinnabon, Florida. James in the South Hill, Nebraska, Maryland, England, Northeast, Kentucky. Shaggy says fave whiskey from US. Is that a question or we can talk about whiskey? We can talk about whiskey in a second if you want to. We got Carson, California, Miami, upstate New York, Chicago, South Texas, East Coast. Greetings from Tokyo, Dallas, New Zealand, Wisconsin, Texas. A very funny description of Texas, actually. Boston, Panama. There's Jay Crypto, who I was just talking to, coincidentally. Vegas, Miami. Is that flowers in the back? A bunch of plants. Boris, a bunch of plants, but I don't believe any of them are flowering right now. John Polo says moving to Pavia. Cyprus, Melbourne, Los Angeles, New Jersey, Richmond, Virginia. Okay, we've definitely got people all over the world, which is pretty normal in the army of spies. What would you guys like to talk about today? In the past, we've done kind of like a little bit of news and then AMA. Rito says shout out to everyone in the chat. David Jensen says Spy Island, Just Job, Penang, Malaysia, New Hampshire, Cardania. Okay, what would you guys like to talk about today? Let's just jump right to AMA today. We won't try to do news. It doesn't work the same live because we're switching between screens. So let's just go right to talking about whatever you guys would like to talk about. Vassal status, David Perez. Vassal status. I think for sure we don't know when Vassal is actually going to happen. Everybody's excited for it. I think we don't know when it's going to happen. Truck Donald actually hit me up about this before the broadcast started in the comments. There is not a CBDC, but a stablecoin consortium in Japan. It involves the East Japan Railway, Mitsubishi Financial, Sumitomo Mitsui Financial, Mizuho Financial, Kansai Electric, Nippon Telegraph and Telephone, Japan Post Bank. I think at this point we know who's involved. And when you have that many gigantic entities in Japan involved in something, I'm interested. I'm super interested. I don't think we know what it's going to be. We know it's not a CBDC. We know they're not trying to interfere with the Bank of Japan's CBDC research efforts, whatever you want to call them. I don't think we know too much, but I think it's going to be relevant. If you have those entities in Japan involved in something, I think it's going to be interesting. So I'm excited to see more. I don't think we know very much at this point. Cardano Mint says, realize there is no spoon. I think that matrix reference probably applies to a lot of things in crypto for sure. Cybex thinks Vossel won't come out till market conditions change. You know, Cardano is such a lone wolf type entity. I don't know how much Cardano cares about market conditions. So I'm not sure about that one. John Nichols says, how could I stop spending all of my ADA on NFTs? I don't know. I don't know on that one. I think a lot of people in Cardano have that problem. I don't know about that. Spy Beach, which do you think will be first? Is that the House Lannister sigil that I'm looking at there? I think it is. I could be wrong. Spy Beach, which do you think will be first? I have no idea. The reason why I've bought parcels that could be Spy Beaches in so many different metaverses now is because I think there's no way to tell. I've definitely been engaging in sort of portfolio theory on that because I think we don't have a good idea who will be first. And more importantly, who will be best? Who will produce the best metaverse? I don't think we know about that one. So we shall see. CNFT Gaming says, "What's up, AOS? Been here since the beginning, watching your channel. I appreciate that. I'm always shocked at how many people have been here from the beginning, and I really appreciate you guys sticking with it. Whether you're brand new or you've been here from the beginning, I really appreciate it. So thank you." Is Satoshi Island going to be Fyre Festival 2.0? I don't think I know what Satoshi Island is, but I think there's great potential for a lot of different metaverse projects in the crypto space to be Fyre Festival 2.0. If you guys don't know what Fyre Festival is, there were actually two notable documentaries made about this. It was kind of like a giant music festival that was to be set on an island in the Caribbean, and they sold these ridiculously expensive passes to this thing where the buyers of those passes believed they would be living in these like semi-luxurious cabana things, but they kind of knew they were sort of going to be tents. And they showed up, and they were, let's just say, the accommodations were very primitive. There weren't really real accommodations for human beings to live on this patch of this island. And anyways, gigantic catastrophe. Fyre Festival. If you want to see some unintentional comedy, definitely watch the documentaries about Fyre Festival. I think the documentarians knew it would be comedy, so for them it was intentional. But I think the Fyre Festival organizers, they didn't realize what was going to happen. Some of them. Okay. Let's see. Oh, comments are moving too fast. Okay. Protoman says, we'll know the best metaverse build in 10 years when they get close to finishing. I hope it's sooner than that, but I think people are probably underestimating how long it will take for these projects to look even nearly finished to us. Adam Olsen. I don't think I will. I don't think I'll cover that one. That's probably a little bit too much. That one's probably a little bit too much for this audience. Or 99% of all people in crypto. Okay. Somebody says Satoshi Island is supposed to be for real. Digital Asset News interview. I don't know anything about Satoshi Island. Will Norris, can we get AOS NFTs for entry to Spy Beach for delegators and channel subscribers? I'd like it to be more. I'd like it to be everybody. I'd like the Spy Beach gatherings to be for everybody who watches the videos. Everybody who's a part of the Army of Spies. I would like it to be for everybody. So I would hate to turn that into something that's like more exclusive than that. But I would love for us to do something with NFTs that have utility. So we'll see what we can do there. But I'd like the gatherings on Spy Beach to be inclusive of everybody who watches the videos. I think of everybody who watches the videos as part of the army of spies. Man, I would love to answer that question because there are a lot of things outside of crypto I'd love to talk about, but they go too far in the direction of doxing me because a lot of the stuff I'm into is too niche. So it would that would dox me too much. I would love to talk about some of those things though. Okay, this is kind of an interesting comment, Just Job. Gaming slash P2E metaverses challenge will be lore slash fluff. My current bet will be in the open world builders. We definitely have different genres of metaverses being built in Cardano and across crypto. We've got the very sort of gaming and play to earn centric kind of metaverses. And then we've got others that are more like normal open worlds, and they're pretty different. I think the use cases are different, you know. I'm curious to see. I don't think it's I definitely don't think it's like a binary thing, like one will win and one will not win. I think they have different uses and they'll appeal to, you know, different people, but also, you know, just at different times. Like I think there are times when I would want to play in a gaming metaverse, and there are other times when I'd want to just go meet up with people in an open world metaverse. Does the mask suck for whiskey intake? Yeah, I would love to be able to somehow sip whiskey. Um, I could do it with a straw, but I refuse to drink whiskey out of a straw. So that's the problem there. What do I think about vitamins comments on ETC? Vitamin. Um, that's a reference to Vitalik. If anybody doesn't understand that. And ETC, of course, is Ethereum Classic. I haven't seen his latest comments on ETC. Tell me what he said. Yes. So I have discussed this with the Cornucopias team. Um, I I haven't ever agreed to take any metaverse parcel for free. So I would like to wait and try. I already own a Cornucopias parcel, actually multiple. I have multiple Cornucopias parcels. But I think what you're referring to is more like one of their custom domes. So I'm kind of waiting. And if I get one, my thing is I wouldn't like to receive it for free. I would like to buy it the same way everybody else does. That's the way I kind of do it with all these projects. I've never accepted anything for free from any project. I would prefer to buy it just like everybody else, because I don't want that to. I don't want receiving something for free to bias my content in any way. So I'll wait till the custom domes sell, see how much they are, and then if I decide to have a headquarters in Cornucopias, then I would buy it in the general sell. So that's why I can't say whether or not I have one or not, because I like to buy those kinds of things. Are we in a recession? Yeah, I've talked about this in a couple of videos. If your definition of a recession is what some people would call a technical recession, which would be 2 quarters where you have negative GDP growth, then the answer is yes. If you are the current administration in the White House, then your definition is whenever the NBER declares a recession. And that's something that the NBER researches over a matter of months and looks at all kinds of economic variables. And then they'll kind of declare a recession after the fact. And that's sort of they're considered the official arbiter of recessions by the US federal government. So depends on what definition you want to use. I have a great love of DAOs. Um, I think it's kind of like DAOs are sort of like a tool in the toolbox that which can be used well or used poorly. In the everything's in the execution, so it depends on what you do with the DAO. I don't want to comment on any particular DAOs. But I'm excited to see what all the DAOs and Cardano do. This is something that I think goes to the heart of the ethos of crypto and the real utility of crypto, which I think is decentralization. So I'm really excited to see what happens with Cardano DAOs. That's something that's like very close to my heart. When mask reveal, never. That will be never. If someone breaks in here with firearms and holds me down and tries to take the mask off me, to them, I would say good luck. And we'll see how well they do with that. Barring that, never. Yes, I'm not doxing anything by saying yes. It was in the first round of issuances. So it is a shoreline property. I'm willing to say it's not within the areas that Pavia later sort of attached the sand colored texture to. But it's on the water on the main island. This is an interesting topic. So, David Jensen, is Voltaire many years away? So you think, or what time frame do you think? I think it's a shifting thing. I think we're already in the era of Voltaire in the sense that so much is happening in Catalyst. What grows out of that is the real question. Like, how is it going to become this as it flourishes? Will the governance pieces of Cardano become a beautiful thing or not? That's the piece that we have yet to see, I think. Bruno, thank you for joining from Brazil. So this is kind of we talked about this quite a bit in an episode a while ago. So if you think about the coining of the term metaverse, I think the consensus is that it happened in Snow Crash, the novel, where metaverse referred to an overarching thing like you're kind of describing, where all these different virtual worlds would be one metaverse. But I think it's kind of just like linguistically, I think it's kind of a clunky way to talk about it. I actually prefer talking about each virtual world as a metaverse, but I certainly understand the people who are like, no, it's like the internet. Google's website is not an internet; it's a piece of the internet. I get both sides, but I think I kind of like describing a virtual world as a metaverse. I think it kind of like rolls off the tongue because if we don't say that that's a metaverse, then we have to say it's a virtual world or it's a piece of the metaverse, an instance of the metaverse. So we'll see which use kind of like takes over. But I sort of like the other one, even though it's not consistent with the coining of that term necessarily. Timmy, you know what? I don't know. Have you heard any news on changes to D or K or reducing minimum stake pool fee to 30 ADA? Or I can't tell if you're saying 30 ADA or negative 30 ADA, but I don't know. I haven't. I normally pay pretty close attention to where I think the parameters are going. I would almost describe it as a discussion on where the parameters should go, and I don't know yet. I'm very interested though for obvious reasons. Rob Cornelia says, just stand up to take a drink. Who knows? Maybe I will. Muesli Swap. People get mad because I talk about Muesli Swap too much. I just love the way those guys deliver. It's like those guys are zero talk, all delivery. Like you hardly see those guys talking, but you see them delivering a lot over and over again. I'm really excited to see it. Okay. John Polo says, you should have an AOS play to earn game. Right now, you have 400 episodes. I can think of so many ideas, but I'm not the smart guy in the room. Level up, find the whiskey. That would be great. If someday there is some kind of an AOS related thing like that, and the goal is to find the whiskey, I would definitely support that goal. Bill Gomez, thank you for buying one of the AOS shirts. I appreciate that. People always whenever somebody makes a comment like this on a live stream, there's always a bunch of people who are like, Wait, what? There are AOS shirts? There have always been AOS shirts. There's a link to buy those shirts they're also hoodies in the description box of each video. So thank you very much, Bill. I appreciate you buying that. Oh, John Nickel. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember seeing these headlines. I haven't looked at this enough to know if he actually said that or not. But I mean, it makes sense. If you're a vitamin, what are you going to say? You're moving from proof of work to proof of stake. I mean, what else are you going to tell them? I don't know. I think anything's possible. Corey says, do you reckon there's a possibility that the ETH merge comes before Vossel? I think anything's possible at this point. I think all bets were sort of off. I think all bets were sort of off when they said that and this is going back quite a ways, but when they said that the ETH merge wouldn't include things like sharding, it changed the game. It was like moving the goalposts. It's like that's not really the merge. That's not the merge that I think everybody was expecting, a while ago. Now what we're getting is just this move to proof of stake that doesn't change the things that everybody wanted to change, like the cost of transactions, scalability. It doesn't change any of those things. So to me, this is not the merge that I think we were all expecting when we first heard about the merge. Oh yeah, I screwed that up. Thank you. House Stark. That's what I meant. House Lannister were the I think I said House Lannister, which were the kind of the nemesis of House Stark. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for that correction. Is that a real background? That is a real background. That's not digital. And there are many plants here. It's true. There are many plants. Um, what blockchains do you think will survive the bear market and be relevant in 2030? Ooh, this is very difficult question. Obviously, I've made a substantial bet on Cardano, so I believe Cardano will be relevant, but that's just my bet. It might not be predictive at all. So I don't know. Are you friends with Hosky? I don't know Hosky personally, but I love his sense of humor. I think the entire project is informed by a very good sense of humor. Okay. Christo George makes a very good point, I think. I use the same definition that's been used for 100 years. That is 2/4. Yep, I think a lot of people are thinking exactly the same thing. Very interesting. Animation.com. I used the Wayback Machine to find that the NBER removed the sentence on 7/21/21. It views real gross domestic product as the single best measure of aggregate economic activity. This would not surprise me at all. If this were the case, I obviously I can't confirm or deny this, but if this is the case, that would not surprise me at all. Oh, okay, this is interesting. Time Alchemist. Have you looked into the Dish Cellular project in Vegas? Keywords, ORAN technology, Motorola Edge Plus, gamifying. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I know about this. The Miston commentary was epic. More takes like that, please. Thank you. Okay. What do you think about Sergey from Link being Satoshi? I've actually never heard that the Daily Meta. I've never heard anybody propose that. I think there are a lot of possible candidates for Satoshi. Some of them are very bad. There's one candidate, I've talked about this before, but there's one theory about Satoshi, and it's a person none of us would want to be Satoshi. And I'm not talking about fake Toshi. Craig, what's his name? I'm talking about a different guy, a very notorious global criminal. I believe he's from Zimbabwe. His name's Paul LaRue. Very unsavory character, and there are some reasons you can make a case that he could be Satoshi. It's very bad. I think we've got much better characters who could be Satoshi. I don't know too much about this about Sergey from Link being Satoshi. That's kind of an interesting one. Seems kind of young. Seems kind of young for that to me. Okay, Kevin Schmitty. BTC cycle theory relevance. I think it's kind of entertaining. I think it's entertaining to watch Plan B. If any of you don't know, there is a personality on Twitter called Plan B. I believe I believe he's Dutch and he works in finance somehow, like he works at a bank or something, or he did, and he kind of championed the stock to flow theory in BTC, which is linked to cycles, and he was predicting certain figures at the top for BTC in the last market. His model kind of got wrecked in this cycle. So there's obviously the Bitcoin block rewards getting cut in half every 4 years, every 200, what is it, 210,000 blocks. I just really talked about this on the channel actually. And that obviously has a big impact on price. So there is some relevance there, but unfortunately, like Plan B turned out to be wrong. I would have preferred for him to be correct because it would have led to much greater values for all of us. Okay. Benjamin Wilson, yo, what's your thoughts on an individual achieving 15,000 inputs in a single transaction using Ergo? Since Ergo and Cardano have the UTXO model in common, makes me wonder what scaling solutions could do. Yeah, I mean, one of the beauties of Cardano is that it's UTXO and not account balance, something I talk about quite a bit. And of course, Ergo is a proof of work blockchain that shares that EUTXO model. They seem to be a pretty brilliant team. I'll straight up tell you guys, I don't hold any Ergo. But they seem to be a brilliant team, and yeah, I think EUTXO is the way to go. Capitalist Pig says, who would you most like to interview? Thinking about your upcoming long form format. What I would like to do with the long form format, I was just talking about this today on another Cardano podcast I was on that I think you guys will see soon. I would like to use that long form to create the product that I want to see in Cardano, and that's that's like podcasts featuring a lot of these personalities who are movers and shakers in Cardano. And what we see out of them currently is maybe 5 tweets a day. We see, whether these are people who are running a project or just have very insightful commentary on the Cardano space. A lot of them, we just get 5 tweets a day, maybe 100 words a day, and we don't really get a good window into who they are and their personality. I'd like to sit down with some of these people, and do long form. I don't even want to call them interviews, but just chat with them over the course of a couple hours and get to know them. That's what I would like. I would like to have that for myself to listen to or watch in Cardano. So I'm going to try to create that because that's the product I myself would like to have. Cyberverse, Digiverse, Digiworld. There's choices. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe one of those will win out, but I think Metaverse is already too strongly planted. Could be wrong. Okay. This one makes people really mad. I like to pronounce it epic, which I believe is probably the wrong pronunciation. I don't think there's any legitimate argument that that's the correct pronunciation, but I like it better. So I get a lot of people sending me direct messages saying, basically they're enraged that I keep pronouncing it epic. So I was threatened to pronounce it epic Z. Like I was telling them I'm going to add like several Z's on the end. But I like epic. I just like the way it sounds. The epoch or epoch. I just don't like. I just doesn't roll off my tongue the same. So, I think the other pronunciation is probably correct, but I like epic. Jay Crypto says, know exactly what you mean. The metaverse police love telling people not to say metaverse in the wrong way. Yeah, I mean it's like, yeah, I quite often will choose grammatical structures that are not the orthodoxy because I just like them better. Will Norris, do you like rum as well as whiskey? I know there's some people who are sort of like deep aficionados of rum, like Raoul Pal is definitely in that category for me. Um, I have drank rum with Caribbeans in the Caribbean who really appreciated rum and had a fantastic time. But I don't know nearly as much about rum as whiskey. I've like exponentially more exposure to whiskey. So it's whiskey for me, but I have had some lovely evenings in the Caribbean looking at the ocean, drinking rum. So rum is also wonderful. Oh, I love this topic. Connie, I love this topic. China and their crashing housing markets effects on the global markets and crypto. Just barely talked about this in a video like 1 or 2 nights ago. I believe I showed an image on the channel just like, was it 1 night ago or 2 nights ago, of the richest woman in Asia who is she inherited what is now, I believe, the largest real estate developer in China. It's a pretty serious problem. I've been telling people for the last couple of years that I believed if we have another gigantic global downturn, probably the rest of the world will try to blame it on the Chinese housing market crashing. Why? Because even several years ago, uh, we saw we saw media. I'm gonna go ahead and call them media outlets, but it's really a YouTube channel like ADV China. Those guys, there are a couple of expats in China. They used to be, and they would jump on their motorcycles and drive to these ghost villages and ghost towers and show these like 5-year-old gigantic real estate developments. And of course, in these towers were the equivalent of condos, which had never been lived in, would never be lived in, were just being traded like commodities. And these guys would walk up to the base of these buildings and literally peel cement off the pillars at the base of the buildings. And underneath, there was like chicken wire and stuff like that. And the valuations on the condos inside those buildings was crazy. It was completely a speculative bubble. This was like years ago. It was then that I knew that there was a good possibility if we have another global downturn, it would probably be, not even really led by, but the perception would be that it would be led by a crash in the Chinese housing market. So you've got these issues. In an article I showed the other night, they were saying 70% of the household wealth of the middle class was invested in those types of real estate projects or real estate in general. And then you get another issue that so much of the infrastructure investment is happening because local governments are appropriating real estate in areas that like until then had been rural, and then they're selling that real estate off to developers. And they're using that money to fund infrastructure development. If the real estate development goes bust, then the infrastructure funding can no longer come from that source, or it'll be diminished in some way. So I think there's a lot of issues there. I love this topic. I think it's very interesting. Okay. Kind of like this is kind of like metaverses. I think until they launch, we won't really know. I think sometimes when these projects launch, it becomes very apparent which one is better or if they're both equally awesome. I think in the case of these two, same thing. We won't know until they launch. Both interesting though. Did I buy the Gutenberg Bible NFT? I did not, but I think it's really interesting. I didn't buy it just by chance. It wasn't a conscious decision on my part. I just didn't happen to buy any, but I think it's a very, very interesting project. This is it called Book Token or Book? Is it just Book or Book Token? But I think it's a very interesting project. Not so much, not for any reason related to the content of the first NFT, the selection. Obviously, I think a lot of people were confused why it was the Gutenberg Bible, but I believe that was the first sort of piece, the first book printed on an actual printing press and distributed widely. So it makes sense that their first NFT would be that same literary work. But I think some people, thought it was some people had thoughts about the subject matter. Okay, what are other issues that remain even after ETH upgrades to all the urges? I would say scalability, scaling, global state, how they scale with global state, how they reduce transaction costs, how they prevent failed transaction fees. There's so many things. Yeah, Vitamin said himself that the merge wouldn't be what everyone wanted. I think that's an understatement. David Perez, no, sharding isn't merge, it's negotiations. Yep. Can we get an AOS hat? That's possible. We could do that. Adam Olson, what do you think about Babel fees? And at the same time, Ergo introduced them, as well as a lot of technology that has been implemented in Cardano. My question is why you don't give Erg some love. I think Ergo is a great project. I'm just focused on Cardano. I do. I mean, if there was no Cardano, this would probably be the Ergo rumor rundown. You know what I mean? But proof of stake, maybe that's not true. Maybe that's not entirely true. I actually really like proof of stake over proof of work. That's the reason. I think they seem to have a brilliant team. I love their ecosystem, but I'm into proof of stake. Are you coming to CNFTCon? No plans currently. Or Rare Bloom? No plans currently. No plans currently. Okay. Yep. A lot of people are asking about CNFTCon or Rare Bloom. No plans. No plans currently. I think anybody who goes to Rare Bloom or CNFTCon is going to have a fantastic time, though. I think you're going to have a fantastic time if you go to either one of those events. I think I know a little bit more about Rare Bloom than I do about CNFTCon, but I think if you go to Rare Bloom, you're probably going to have a fantastic time. I'm sure likewise with CNFTCon. Yeah, no comment on what I did before crypto. I would love, there's so much there I'd love to talk about, but it'll dox me. Yep, doing this full time. There was absolutely no way I could make those videos if I wasn't putting a crazy number of hours into this. So Tono, I like your vitamin and misted voices. I can't even remember what the Mistin voice was, but I know it was only a couple days ago. I can't even remember what it was, but thank you. Oh yeah, Satoshi could have been a team. I believe that's kind of like part of Craig, what's his name's? Some of the people that support hit the theory of him being Satoshi, which I do not support, by the way, but some of the people that support that theory, I've heard them say in the past, not to me personally, but publicly, they've said he was in the room, which is kind of the idea that there were a couple people talking, and this project was kind of launched out of those discussions. I don't know. I actually hope we never find out. I kind of hope we don't find out. Okay. Yeah, I think it's called Meow Swap. The question from Shane is, what do you think about that cat dex, not man swap? They did some sort of pre-launch before Sunday. Was it Meow Swap? Has anyone heard anything since? I don't know too much. I remember there was a little bit of, I remember when they launched and there was discussion about their launch. I don't know too much. Soju Boy, one of the best YouTube screen names ever. Soju Boy. AOS, have you decided on the longer formats? Yeah, I'm gonna do it for sure. I'm gonna do it, and yeah, they're probably gonna be, I'm hoping to do podcasts that will be whatever length the discussion necessitates, whether that's 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour, whatever. But yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do the long format stuff. Q Hustle says, "Wow, made the live. Whoa, first time listening on normal speed. Keep the good work. Love your videos. Thank you." Cardania says, EUTXO rules. Agreed. Agreed. Okay. Hosky Token says, "Are you Hosky?" Nope, not Hosky. What is your opinion of fractional ownership of property? This is, if you're talking about, you might be talking about all forms of property. This comes up a lot with real property, real estate. I think one of the and this is a use case for crypto that people have been talking about for a long time. And occasionally I get people in my real life who don't know anything about this channel, of course, who hit me up and they're like, "Hey, I know these guys. They've got a genius idea. They're going to use crypto to create fractional ownership of property, real estate." They're talking about, and I'm like, we do have a regulatory structure for fractional ownership of property, and in some cases, the government would say that that's an unlicensed real estate investment trust. That should be a REIT. And then we've got some other types of fractional ownership of property that are often regulated by the states. So the thing about real estate and fractional real estate is that it can be pretty highly regulated. So I think anybody going after that use case is there are some regulatory hurdles on that one. Yep, this seems to be the case. And again, I think the British pronunciation is I think the arguments, the only ones that seem legit are for the British pronunciation, but I'm definitely more down with the American pronunciation. It rolls off my tongue much better. My Linux neckbeard friends say epoch, not epoch. I don't know if you're going for the epic or the pock pronunciation in both of those, but I hear you. Okay. As in epic. Okay. Yeah, I came back and said as in epic. Yep, that's me. Okay. East Coast scripts. The reason I mentioned meta world versus metaverse is because people always talk about which one will win out. But in actuality, won't many of them all exist together? Yeah, no, I don't think we're gonna have one winner. It's like back in the old days when all we had was 8-bit Nintendo, when the only console you possibly had at home was 8-bit Nintendo, because you were already past the Atari days, and before that we had like Pong. There were these little console things that just had two knobs on them, and you could like play Pong on that thing. Then there was Atari, and people had Frogger. Then there was 8-bit Nintendo. I feel like right now this is kind of like somebody in the 8-bit Nintendo days when you had Super Mario Brothers, thinking that that would be the only console. There could only be one type of console, and it would be Nintendo forever. Of course, I think we're gonna have multiple virtual worlds. So not just one will win out, but I just like the way Metaverse. When somebody asks me like, what is Virtua, what is Pavia, what is Ada Realm, the natural way for me to describe that for myself is to say, oh, that's a metaverse. That's a metaverse project. Um, if I say that's a virtual world, like a normal person who's not in crypto would have no idea what I'm talking about. They'd be like, a virtual world? What do you mean, like a soap opera? Like, is it a TV show? Like, what are you talking about? Um, the metaverse is where we are. The metaverse is where we want to be. Agreed. I have definitely drank Puerto Rican rum in Puerto Rico, and I agree with you. It is awesome. I spent an unbelievably enjoyable night in San Juan one time. People are talking about ADV China. ADV China is awesome. It's an awesome channel. I agree. ADV China is a great channel. I agree. Those guys are awesome. I always have thoughts on these questions. So EJ Garza is asking a price question. I always have thoughts on these, but I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't give you advice on that. It's the best way to put it. I'm also not confident enough in my predictive abilities to be giving anybody advice on that. Ooh, what year will the world see its decentralized government? Are you talking about one government for the entire world? Because if you are, you'll have some people definitely very worried about that. But I think decentralization is the craziest thing to think about with crypto. With crypto, decentralization is the crazy thing, and I think people haven't thought it through. I've talked about this a bunch of times, but if we think about decentralization, right? If 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 you're making money and spending it through decentralized mechanisms, it becomes very difficult for a centralized government to effectively carry out taxation. So the next question for me is, if a government has trouble effectively executing on taxation, do they end up existing at all? That's the scary question. The really scary question to me is that one. Can a government actually exist if in a decentralized world where it's very difficult for them to effectively collect taxes? That's the really scary world-changing question to me. Could you do one of your long-form episodes on CNFTs and some notable projects, including Lace? Yeah, so for me, the thing that I can only really cover stuff that I'm interested in. I would never want to cover something just because it's just because I think people want to listen to it if I wasn't actually into it. So what I'm really into are functional NFTs with utility. I love that the art NFT and PFP NFT space exists. I'm actually not so much into it myself. Like I don't own any PFP NFTs. I love that we have such a beautiful, vibrant art and PFP NFT community in Cardano. I love that it exists and I never want it to go away. I'm just not into it myself, so I don't cover that on my channel. I only cover things that I'm personally like really enthusiastic about. I would never want to fake enthusiasm. Okay. What are some of your lesser known sources of information? So I think there are a lot of things that there are a lot of places where mainstream media they source their information and it's totally accessible to everyone, but no one actually looks at it. Like the notes from the Fed meetings, they do this dot plot of where they think the interest rate's going to be, and it was very informative. I was talking about it on the channel, toward the end of last year, and it was very informative about what's happened this year. And everybody saw, reports in the financial media where the people creating that content were looking at that dot plot and they were reporting on it, given whatever the slant of their media outlet is, whether we won't even get into it, but they all have their own slant. So they presented that information in various ways. And if you actually looked at the dot plot of where the members thought the interest rate, the federal funds rate was going, you had a pretty clear idea of what was going to happen this year. Like it wasn't a big mystery. So there's some stuff like that where I just go to the source and I look at things like that, and it's pretty much all open source. Like very rarely do I have something that's not open source. Sometimes people will hit me up with something that's not open source, but it's much more rare than the open source scenario. Who is Cardano? Well, I don't know. I would like to know. You tell me. Matthew, thank you. Yeah, I was hoping that this time slot would work for more people. I've always done it at the normal time slot. I'm hoping that this would make it possible for people maybe who weren't able to jump on in the past to jump on. Okay, I did an episode called Cardano and the Layerverse where I talked about this. So I think the beauty of I think we need both. I think you do want a base layer and a bunch of L2s because you can make different compromises on an L2. Charles has also talked about this pretty extensively. In an L2, you could compromise on decentralization and have very high speed and very fast finality. Do you want that in your base layer? No, I don't think that's the right mix of the elements in the crypto trilemma. You know, I think I like where Cardano's at on those three variables, but at the same time, would it be okay to have a layer two that compromises decentralization heavily for some use cases? Sure. Um, there's a place for things like state channels where there may be, almost no decentralization there, but you achieve very high speed and you're only kind of hitting the base layer occasionally. So I think L2s can be whatever you want them to be. You can choose any sort of accommodation of those three variables you want. Yeah, my thinking is kind of similar on that last question and this one. I think so. This is Timbo Jimbo Jones says, I think proof of work still has its use cases for fair distribution, etc. Also, I was late at the ADA party buying Ergo now. I was like buying 8 at 2 cents. Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for that. I won't say that that's illegitimate in any way. I think there's something to be said for that. I always come back to something that Charles has put, I think, pretty eloquently and concisely, and that's that the difference between proof of stake and proof of work is just in how you choose who participates in the next block, right? It's just how you choose who's going to make the next block. Everything after that can be exactly the same. This came up recently in a Twitter thread / discussion I covered on the channel. Somebody was calling proof of work and proof of stake a consensus. Somebody was calling them consensus protocols, and several different people, including Emin Gun Sirer of Avalanche, were pointing out that those aren't actually the consensus protocols. They don't determine how you form consensus. Those are just Sybil control mechanisms. They just ensure that you don't have one party being, like all of the nodes, like one party being all of the possible block producing entities. They ensure that, one party is not pretending to be everyone, and forming consensus with themselves while everyone believes those are different parties. It's Sybil control. It's not how you actually reach consensus. How you reach consensus about the block happens after the proof of work, proof of stake stuff happens. That stuff is just how you determine who makes the next block and how you ensure that it's not a one party pretending to be a bunch of multiple parties. Animation.com. I like your vitamin voice also. Would you be interested in doing some voiceover stuff for our upcoming animated series, The Adequate Adventures of Du Bois? That sounds hilarious. That's something I have never thought of or even thought could be possible. But yeah, I definitely would not rule that out. I would definitely not rule that out. Are there any under the radar projects you are following? I try to talk about anything that I'm following. I try to talk about it. I think there are probably a lot of under the radar projects in Cardano that we as a group are not paying attention to, like all of us in the Cardano ecosystem, that are going to turn out to be killers. I think there are projects that are going to turn out to be amazing that we're probably not paying attention to because we've gotten to that size now. We're kind of in that stage where we're big enough that there are people out there, there are brilliant people out there right now, probably building things that we're going to be talking about nonstop in like 12, 24, 48 months, whatever. but we're big enough now. That's gonna be happening. In the past, I think we were small enough that we could pick up pretty early when a project was bringing something awesome to the table. But now we're getting big enough. There's probably stuff that will launch and surprise all of us. Kind of like MuesliSwap. I mean, when MuesliSwap first launched, there were notable Cardano Twitter accounts, heavily implying that they were not legit, and they surprised all of us and turned out to be extremely, extremely legit. Can we get 10,000 AOS unique NFTs minted on the Cardano blockchain using this image as the base? We take those NFTs and stake them to earn voting rights on the AOS for their in-game and future Metaverse project. I've had people suggest these kind of NFT collections to me in the past, and it would be, of course, that would be great for me because I would make some dough. But I haven't been willing to do anything like that because I would hate to make money off the army of spies and not be able to deliver something incredible in terms of utility. So a lot of people have talked to me about that kind of thing, and I've resisted that at every turn just because I don't want to make money off the army of spies that way. Yeah, so what type of DeFi would you participate in on Cardano? So my big fear with DeFi always is the ideas put forward by that one founder of SushiSwap. What he said was very thought-provoking. He said, hey, if you're participating in a DeFi platform and the only reason you and everyone else are doing the things you're doing on that platform, if your only incentive for doing those things is collecting the reward token, whether it's called a governance token or a reward token, if the only reason you're doing those things, whether you're trading, LPing, farming, taking out loans, putting up assets to make loans, if you're doing whatever you're doing only to earn those reward tokens, and there's not a legit business there with legit revenue streams outside of the reward token, then you're probably participating in a Ponzi scheme. When he said that, and I'm putting words in his mouth and paraphrasing heavily, but when he said that, it was very thought-provoking to me because you can fit a lot of different DeFi projects into that definition. And when you ask yourself, okay, what DeFi projects are legit businesses in the sense that there's a legit product or service being offered and there's a real revenue stream above costs or that could potentially exceed costs in that platform, it becomes a very short list, like very short list. So I think that's the reckoning we haven't had yet in crypto in general, and that probably includes Cardano. Do I have a Cardistation rover? I do not. I have a spy beach on the moon in Cardistation. I do not have a rover. Are you imbibing this evening? I am. I am drinking Hatozaki small batch in my coffee. Not my favorite Japanese whiskey. There are very excellent Japanese whiskeys. That one's not my favorite, but it is in my coffee, and in my coffee, it tastes great. Also, thank you for your hard work over the past year or so that I've been watching. Sorry, that's this comment. Seeing everything grow has been amazing. The future is bright. I agree. Mr. Good Drinks, I agree. Good question topic, given your username. This is kind of like the NFT thing. I would love to make that money, but I would not feel good about anybody sending me ADA for nothing. So I'm trying not to go down that route. I know it's like standard operating procedure for crypto people making videos on YouTube I try not to call them influencers because I don't actually believe they influence that much really. But I would say people commenting on the crypto space or various ecosystems within the crypto space is definitely common operating procedure for them to post their wallet and take in funds. But for some reason, I wouldn't feel good about that. How would I elevator pitch someone for Cardano? First of all, I wouldn't do it. My days of pitching people on crypto I think crypto is still dangerous enough. It's still easy enough for people to lose their assets. It's so easy to get sucked in by a project that's just going to exchange your hard-earned assets with worthless tokens. I think that piece is so easy. I try really hard not to pitch anyone on crypto in general. But if somebody's already in crypto, then of course, I'm sort of pitching them on Cardano. Not so much buying anything in Cardano, but just being involved in the Cardano ecosystem. I'm like, putting out content to show people how wonderful Cardano is every night. So I guess I am doing that. How would you elevator pitch someone for Cardano? I would distinguish Cardano from Ethereum. I would talk about all the great things that come from local state and EUTXO, like no failed transaction fees, much lower cost transactions, um, all the scalability you can have with the local state of EUTXO. I would talk about all those things. Okay. 10 million different Pong consoles. Yeah, I remember as a kid, there was one laying around my house. No idea who the manufacturer of that was, but you could definitely play Pong on it. John Polo, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that very nice compliment. I appreciate that. Somebody saying Duncan Coots is crypto Jesus. He might be. He might be. He looks the part. Marky Garza says, "Isn't the whole point of crypto and metaverse for there to be more than one?" Yeah, I agree with that. Hey AOS, appreciate the time you devote to the crypto space. What tips do you have for maintaining a healthy and balanced lifestyle while putting so much time into crypto? Man, I'm probably terrible on this question because I'm currently putting way too much. I shouldn't say way too much. I'm currently putting an amount of time into Cardano that would be probably unsustainable for a lot of people. But the way in my life, I've always gone for the work hard, play hard um, kind of balance. So I tend to work pretty hard on things I'm passionate about, and then do fairly, I guess I should say, pretty intense forms of recreation on the play side of that, including like yesterday. Yesterday was the day this week when I wasn't doing anything having to do with crypto or Cardano. And so I took that day and I did something pretty intense, something pretty far for the average person, something to be pretty far out on the intensity scale. And so that's how I manage that. And I tend to do those things with the people closest to me because I know that there's certain sacrifices the people close to me have to make because I'm so busy doing stuff like this. So I tend to want to do fairly intense recreational activities when I'm not working. So the answer for me is work hard, play hard. I don't think that's the right answer for everybody, but that's the way it's always worked for me. Is part of that has to do with the background I came from, where that's pretty common. Interview the well, sir. Yeah, I don't know how we do it though. I mean, Cardano Well is someone who I would say has equal anonymity concerns as I, perhaps even more, because he's not even on video in disguise. He's just a two-dimensional well. So it would be difficult to figure out how to do it, but I would love to, of course. Do not know anything about Pixel Page House of Coin. Tell me about it. I don't know anything about it. Yeah, that would be pretty interesting because probably the way to do long form, I hate to say this, but the audio comes through a lot more clearly when I'm not wearing this disguise. So probably I would also not be on screen. So it'd probably just be like a logo of the whale and an AOS logo talking to each other. I don't know how much people would enjoy that. I would enjoy it. I would love to do that, but it'd probably just be like two logos talking to each other. So it'd be a true podcast on YouTube though, but with no real video portion. So something like that. Um, okay. Yeah, this is a really interesting discussion. When we get into this discussion of what if the ability to effectively tax the citizenry goes away, what happens? Do you just tax all sales? Yeah, I think that's a logical answer, but what if the sales are also happening, you know, in crypto through decentralized mechanisms? Then it becomes difficult to even tax the sell. Have I been watching The Anarchists on HBO? I have not. The title sounds interesting though. I would like to watch it. I'd like to learn what it is. Tell me about it. Only like 2% of Chinese citizens pay income tax. So no, a world government that can't collect tax wouldn't work. I actually don't know anything about that topic. No, Cardania says, have you checked out the living lands formula in Cardania terraforms? Might tickle your sweet spot and chill. I don't know. I actually don't know anything about it. I would like to learn. I would like to learn. Why do you think projects like Cardistation get no love? I think it's a tricky thing. Capturing the attention of a niche ecosystem like Cardano, I think it's tricky. It's sort of like there's the building. We'll talk about this just in the context of metaverse projects. There's the building of the metaverse project, and then there's the capturing the imagination of the Cardano ecosystem, and they're really two different things. You can do well or not well at either one, and it's almost like in a lot of ways it's totally independent of the other. You can build a fantastic metaverse and just not do the right things to capture everyone's attention, and vice versa also. We'll probably see both of those. So who knows? And you never know. I mean, some of those projects are just busy building. Maybe they're just busy building and they haven't quite gotten to that point where they put a lot of energy into showing the Cardano world what they built. So I hope for Cardistation that that's the case and that they're able to show the entire Cardano ecosystem what they built, because there are only so many Cardano metaverses where you can actually walk around with your avatar and enjoy the virtual world, and that's one of them. P says, one of the best dudes in the crypto space. Thanks for responding and pointing me in the right direction when I DM'd you on Twitter, bro. Oh, I think I know who this is. Yeah, I think we probably talked about something having to do with trees, right? Was that you? I think we talked about trees. Yeah, my pleasure. Do you wear this outfit when you go skiing too? No, these are not ski goggles. These are not ski goggles. Is Cardano actually evolving to be layer 0? I probably wouldn't object to that. I probably wouldn't object to that. Okay. I'm really interested to see what becomes of Singularity Net. I actually don't own any Singularity assets whatsoever, so don't think that I'm like shilling for those guys, but I'm very curious to see what becomes of Singularity Net. Thank you. I will take that as a compliment. Thank you. Have I seen Bitfin's Digital Fish Aquarium? Underrated. I would like to see that. I would like to see this. I've heard the name. I didn't even know it was a digital fish aquarium. So I would like to see this digital fish aquarium. Oh, black, man, no question. I think I've been drinking black coffee since I was 12. No, I started drinking coffee and then I switched to black, maybe a little bit older than that, maybe like 14-ish. I think I switched to black coffee. It's because I felt like the sugar and the milk combined. You've got the sugar and then you've got galactose in the milk, and it was too much sugar content for me. And I was also, at the time, I was afraid of saturated fat in the milk. No longer afraid of saturated fat, but I decided both those things could be left out. I would just drink the black coffee. So I've been drinking black coffee for a long time, but occasionally I put a little whiskey in there. Richard, thank you for joining from Lisbon. Do I hold any CNFTs? Mainly metaverse projects and what I would call like functional NFTs, NFTs that have utility, like in a DeFi platform, something like that. There's various Muesli Swap, the cow NFTs that have functionality in their platform, things like that, but no PFPs. How long do you think the bear market will last for crypto in general? 12 months, 18 months, 24 months? No idea. No, I don't think anyone really knows. I think anybody who tells you they know doesn't really know. Okay. Very intrigued by the architecture of JED, that sort of tri-coin system. I was just talking about this on someone else's podcast who had me on as a guest. I'm sure you will see it soon. I was just barely talking about this, but I'm very intrigued by the architecture. I can't wait for it to come out. Very interested to see what it looks like. Hey, Army Spies, what Bitcoin looks like in 20 years? I'm probably going to express an unpopular opinion here, but I was actually on the side of the big blockers in the block size wars. You're probably aware the small blockers won that. Adam Back and Blockstream and those guys were definitely on that side. There's a lot. We could do an entire discussion on all that. I was on the big blocker side. I remember back in the day when we could use Bitcoin for normal transactions. You could send it back and forth for almost nothing, for normal commercial transactions. People used to pay me in Bitcoin in a brick and mortar business I had, which was kind of just like a, kind of a side business. It wasn't my real job, but it was something I had, something I owned, and I used to get paid in Bitcoin. And when that stopped happening, what Bitcoin was changed. I wish I could see the alternate history where the big blockers won that war. Where's your favorite in real life beach located? Oh man, I have so many favorites. So I won't claim to be any kind of beach expert. I haven't been to every single beach in the world, but I've definitely been on beautiful beaches in both coasts in North America, Central America, the Caribbean, Asia. Um, beaches are great, especially, but I'm more of an activity person. So when I go to the beach, I don't really just like lay there and hang out. Like there's a couple of certain things I like to do when I'm next to the ocean like that. So I'm not really hanging out on the beach. I've done these activities on some very beautiful beaches, but not so much just for the hanging out. Watch. Okay, this came up today in the podcast I was on. This topic came up. Watch that. Watch that podcast. You'll know exactly. You'll exactly have the answer to your question. Yep, the de minimis exception from Joy's testimony. I like the Senate bill to exempt all crypto purchases under $50. I like it too. I hope we've needed a de minimis exception for a long time. Japan. I remember when Japan passed a de minimis exception years and years ago. It's always made sense. We've always needed it. So hopefully we'll get it. I'm skeptical whether or not we actually get it. I hope we do. This is why we need metaverses so we can do private long form podcasts. Surprise. The podcast I was actually on today was in the metaverse. It was in a metaverse, whatever your favorite nomenclature is there. We were actually in the metaverse doing the podcast. You'll be able to see that soon. Okay. Capitalist Pig says, I'm usually listening only anyways, so podcast format would be great. Okay. Nope. I have never that I can think of. I've never actually gotten into a fight with a criminal. I'm trying to think. I've been involved in things where we were where I was dealing with someone who had stolen something recently, kind of a funny little street adventure where I was dealing. I can't really tell the story, but I was dealing with someone who had stolen something from someone. So I've been involved in that. Did I fight them? No, I couldn't prove that they stashed the thing they stole. So there was no fighting of them. So I guess I have to answer no. I haven't done any crime fighting. I'm trying to think if I've ever gotten into a fist fight with an actual criminal. I can't, unless you count them unless you count assault as their crime that makes them a criminal. Like that's happened. But actually fighting a criminal, I guess I'd have to answer no. Would Minotaur merge Ergo and Cardano someday? Yeah, I mean, in the sense that, Minotaur implies a use of things like proof of work in the same chain, then of course Ergo would be, the obvious candidate for that. So good point. Yeah, I've never heard anybody put it that way, Renee. Good point. Okay. You can see that. Yeah. J Crypto points out, imagine AOS in a Metaverse podcast or having his own where his guests come as RPM avatars. If only we already had that. Yeah. J Crypto is giving you a little hint there as to what I was just referring to. Terry says hi from London. Hi, Terry. You were scared of saturated fat at 14. Yeah, yep, yeah. Spending a lot there was definitely a lot of thought about nutrition stuff. Uh Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I've got a bunch. Yeah, I've got a bunch. I don't publicize them because I don't want people to send me money. People, every time I do one of these live streams, somebody's like, "Post your address and I'll send you some ADA." I don't make the handles I have public because I don't want people to send me ADA. I like to earn. I like to earn money. I don't like to be given money. What do you? This is Sircorin. Sircorin. I'm probably butchering that, but Sircorin. Carecorn, maybe. What do you think about an interface for DEX contracts and the wallets, especially full node or Mithril wallets? Having the websites exist as a point of failure worries me about decentralization. Very good point. Very good point. I like. I think we've already kind of got DApp Explorer utility in things like Eternal. So I think going forward, that's just going to get bigger and bigger. I think wallets, if they want to be competitive, are probably going to have to incorporate those kind of DApp Explorer functionalities. I think Lace Wallet is, as far it seems like they're definitely planning on that being a big part of Lace Wallet, as far as I know. So yeah, I think this is gonna be a big piece of our wallets going forward. So yeah, okay. So this is an interesting topic. What inevitable government intervention will the crypto community have the hardest time accepting? So one of the big things is going to be that the regulators know there's one thing they can regulate very effectively, and that's fiat on ramps. Because you're probably aware the way that Cardano exchanges have fiat on ramps is that they have a relationship with banks, and those banks have to be a part of the Federal Reserve system in order to have access to all of the Fed services so they can do things like ACH. When you ACH your money to Coinbase, it's not because Coinbase is a part of those Federal Reserve systems. It's because they have a relationship with banks, right? That's the way it works for most exchanges. And the Feds can regulate those banks, right? And tell those banks whether or not they can have those relationships if they want to be a part of the Federal Reserve systems. So stable coins seem to be the number one outlaw on the most wanted list of a lot of the regulators. They're very concerned about stable coins. I think the crypto community is going to have a really hard time with that. If they crack down on stable coins, I think that's going to be a big deal. So we'll see about that one for sure. Okay. Why don't you make an NFT that allows access to everyday AMA like this. Oh, that's an interesting idea. I kind of think of the AMAs as something I do because I want to interact with everybody who's a part of the Army of Spies. So, like I said before, I'd hate to make that more exclusive than everybody who watches the videos. But there are things we can do. There are things we can do that can involve NFT access like this. I think there are other things, but for the AMAs, like for now at least, I definitely like them to be sort of inclusive of everybody who is in the Army of Spies. Okay. The Anarchists is a six-part documentary series about the anarchy movement and the big annual conference in Anarchapulco. Yeah, I do know about Anarchapulco for sure. And chronicles the strange and deadly series of events. Yeah, I would watch this. I would watch this. Yeah, I'd be very interested in watching that. Definitely. If anybody doesn't know, yeah, there were some murders, right? There were some murders related to this. I've heard man, I can't remember his name, but there's a YouTuber who's constantly getting kicked off YouTube who is he's somehow related to Anarchapulco. He has some wild theories. He has some wild theories, but he's kind of entertaining to listen to. Definitely lives in Mexico. Um, Interesting to listen to. I forget he's a Canadian or American expat. Um, but he's talked a little bit about this. So yeah, I'd be interested in watching that. Thank you for making me aware. David Perez says mine was in Tahiti. Yeah, that part of the world. Definitely, definitely. I have not been in Tahiti, but I have seen many videos and photos. Definitely looks beautiful. No, I haven't kept track of this. Sub handles, virtual handles, and customizable handles coming from Ada handle. Will this be our answer to DNS and identity? I think it sounds like IOG has a lot of up its sleeve as far as identity goes. So I'm kind of interested to see where that goes between Ada handle and the things they might produce, and IOG, all the things they've sort of got up their sleeve, or what I think they've got up their sleeve. I'll be interested to see how those two things mesh for sure. Okay. I think you're talking about Adam Olson. Adam Olson has very colorful questions for sure. One of them, there's one right at the start that I didn't read because I knew it would be it's a little too exciting for some people, I think. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hi AOS, great stream. Do you think Singularity Net Hypercycle will affect Cardano price? I'm excited to find out. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I'm excited to find out. Um, oh my god. If the game of Hungry Hippos could be replicated on Cardano and the balls for gameplay were minted with a maximum supply of 1 million, would you buy them and what price would you sell them at? I don't know. I guess it depends on the execution of the game. Like I think the utility would depend on how much people wanted the game. But I mean, my recollection of the game, I was definitely around when people were buying this game and playing it. But my recollection of the game is that the balls all start out as sort of like no one's property, and then as your plastic hippo, you hit the lever and its mouth reaches out and grabs them. So if you sell the balls to everybody, I mean, how does that kind of cuts against the balls not being anybody's property and everybody grabbing them? I mean, are you like the game master who puts on the game if you own the balls? I don't know if I know how that would work. Um, Johnny Rico, I remember your first live stream. Thank you. Thank you for sticking with me. I really appreciate that. He says, "My, how you've grown." Thank you. I appreciate that. Any thoughts on peer-to-peer in terms of Cardano infrastructure? I remember the days back, uh, back in the early days of Cardano stake pools on testnet, when bootstrapping was a bit of a chore. So I think peer-to-peer is definitely a good thing. I think that's definitely a good thing. Um, I think this is really important. David Perez, what are your thoughts on the battle for regulatory control between CFTC and SEC? So most of you probably know this, but CFTC generally over commodities, SEC over securities. One of those two is what we in the crypto space would call engaging in regulation by enforcement. That would be the SEC, right? Won't give us any guidance on what they want us to do. Instead, they just send out these blanket letters to projects demanding, basically we'll call them the answers to questions, but they basically want a bunch of document production. And it's all supposed to be voluntary, but then there are a lot of people who believe that the projects who don't comply with those voluntary requests, they get the stick instead of the carrot, right? This was the kind of the subject of a very terse discussion between an SEC representative and a senator. I believe he was a senator. He could have been in the House, but I believe he was a senator. And he was like, I heard that if companies in crypto don't respond to those letters, that the enforcement division has been instructed to make it a bloodbath for them. And the SEC guy was like, no, that's not the case. So I think there are very different types of regulators, and all of us in crypto probably want the CFTC and not the SEC, which means we want to be commodities for that reason. But I don't really think that it's because we really want to be commodities. I think it's because we'd rather be under the CFTC and not the SEC. Okay, sorry, that's a long-winded answer. Sorry, guys. Brian Weaver, thanks for all you do in the Cardano system. My 1 p.m. daily workout starts with your videos. Thank you, dude. Thank you for listening while you work out. I appreciate that. Appreciate your comments. Don't normally comment in the space often, but wanted to give you kudos. Thank you. Thank you so much for throwing Army of Spies on when you're working out. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I mean, I think so it's kind of like the thing we were talking about with Metaverse projects. There's the running the pool part. You have to run the pool competently. Like that is a necessary but not sufficient thing. Like you must run the pool competently, but you've also got to figure out how to get enough exposure for the pool to get delegators. That part's really hard. Running it competently is also, a skill set you have to have, but you've also got to figure out how to get delegators. So that second one is hard. You can do an excellent job on the first one. And if you can't do the second one, it's still going to be trouble. So, I live abroad for my family and I use ADA to send money there. Even now, it's unbelievably fast and convenient. I am also familiar with this sending money across the globe thing. And I would love it if there were more fiat off ramps so that I could just send the money using Cardano. That'd be much better. It's much better than the traditional mechanisms for doing that. Okay. Hosky token says, saying I'm not Hosky is exactly what I would say. Sounds about right. Seek Vape says Minotaur might merge Ergo into Cardano, and then a BTC might merge BTC into Cardano. Everything is going to merge into Cardano. Rails, let's go. Okay. Often. How often do I check AOS deck pool to see how many blocks we're minting? Often. Okay. Just a thought with the long form plans to keep anonymity and melee listening easier, do a podcast so we can listen while at work. It'll be a podcast, but it's a lot easier for me to use YouTube as the distribution platform. So it'll definitely be a podcast, but it'll probably be on YouTube. Okay. Joyce Testimony says, I've been to China several times for business reasons, and I've seen firsthand how factories hide their revenues from the tax guys with fake names and books. versus the US, where we have 80% tax compliance. Yes. Outside, if you're not aware, outside of the EU and the US, tax compliance can often be very different than it is in the EU and the US. And I've certainly seen this kind of tax avoidance outside of those jurisdictions. J Crypto, yeah, he says that was funny. Love the Hungry Hippos thought experiment. What a wildly low key vintage IP. Yes, it's almost as if J Crypto and I were talking about low key vintage IPs just a few hours ago today. Jonathan Nunez says, "I listen to you every day at 4 a.m. on my way to work. Thanks, dude. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that." Time Alchemist says, "Thoughts on Link versus Charlie 3 and the importance, complexity of bringing real world data into the trustless universe." Yeah, I mean, there's no question. We have to bring real world data into blockchains to do a lot of different things. So the Oracle use case is a very necessary one. Do I know enough about Charlie 3 at this point to say anything valuable on Charlie 3 versus Link? The answer is no. I just don't know enough. I don't know enough about Charlie 3 to even comment on that. The use case, though, is a very necessary one for sure. I mean, it's like if we couldn't bring real world data into the blockchain, the use cases for the blockchain become much less compelling, for sure, in my opinion. Do you think IOG's new full feature light wallet is a bit of a slap in the face to other light wall makers that came before and made a lot of things possible? Yeah, I mean, we're in kind of an interesting position. It's kind of something we have to think about. IOG from the start has been stressing to us that they're also a commercial entity and they're also going to do projects, and they are not a nonprofit, they're a for-profit corporation. So they're going to have projects and they're going to push those projects out in the world just like all the other companies in Cardano. So we have to kind of start, in some ways we have to think about IOG as another market participant in Cardano. At the same time, they're also responsible for a lot of Cardano, at least to date. I think that's going to rapidly change. I love IOG and everything they've done for Cardano. Like we would not exist if not for Charles and IOG. But we're going to undergo this transition, where we have to think of them more as another in the field of participants. And it's gonna be a little weird, but that's going to be the case. Okay, this is kind of interesting. Will Norris, for over a year, I've been getting my friends and family into Cardano. Friends are easier to get involved, but I'm still the subject matter expert. Family is harder, and we need more user-friendly onboarding. Thoughts? So you can play this any number of different ways. I try really hard not to onboard my friends and family into crypto in general, because there are too many ways they can screw up, right? There are too many ways they can lose their money. Even within the Cardano ecosystem, there are going to be projects that you would not want them to invest in. And so you're left with, it's not really binary, it's a spectrum, but you're left with some options. Either monitor everything they're doing to make sure they don't invest in something stupid and lose their money, or don't onboard them. I generally choose not to onboard them. I do have some friends and family who are into Cardano in a big way in some cases, but those are people I sort of brought into crypto years and years ago. And these days I try not to onboard people to crypto just because it's still, I would love to onboard them and say, hey, just buy ADA and stake it, but don't do anything else. But I know they're going to do those other things, so I'm super hesitant to do it, to be honest. I hope Jonathan Nunez is not driving while watching you on the way to work, says Joyous Testimony. I hope so too. I think what a lot of people, I think there's a decent number of people though, even with YouTube, I do this myself, get in the car, turn on something on YouTube, which is maybe really more of a podcast, even though there's video elements to it. And, you're just kind of listening to that as you drive. Maybe you've got that, coming through your stereo. Maybe you just got your phone in the cup holder, with the speaker down at the bottom, so it sounds like it's actually amplifying it. But I think a lot of people do that, and they're not actually watching the video, so I feel okay about that. Okay. Okay. Honestly, I hope you do great with the long form podcast. This is Adam. I can't wait to hear it. I don't know how you get all your information, but I'm sure it takes some time. Your intros are amazing. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. Jay Crypto says, "Is Gary Gensler your boy?" You will understand this question at a later date for sure. He says, "Thoughts on the road to tokenizing commodities, fully backed synthetics." So, if Gary Gensler really hates, if Gary Gensler and the rest of the big regulators really hate stable coins, I think I can say the thing he also really hates is synthetics. His rhetoric has been, it's like super anti-stablecoin, but the thing that's really within his wheelhouse that he's also super against is synthetic platforms in crypto, I think. And we haven't even seen, I mean, you're probably aware, regulators in Washington, D.C., it's sort of like they all have their own little fiefdom, and they're kind of competing with each other like feudal kings trying to expand their territory. There's always this jurisdictional grab going on, or they're trying to steal jurisdiction from each other. And he is in a big struggle right now with, entities like the CFTC over who will get to regulate crypto. And if it ends up being Gary Gensler and the SEC, man, he's definitely said some things that are pretty anti-synthetics platforms. I'll put it that way. Let's see. Jane Sarin says, "Hi, AOS. Just got here late. So glad for all you do. Don't know if anyone has already asked. Any thoughts on how to improve voting on Catalyst?" Oh man, this is a big topic. Ooh, that's one. That's one that's probably deserving of more detail and attention than I can give it here. That's a really big topic. I definitely have some strong thoughts on that, but to give it justice, I would need to address that almost like kind of separately. I will say though, in summary, I will say that I kind of assume that governance is always going to be super difficult and super messy, almost to the extent, like, I think that governance is always so messy because you have so many different parties competing for a limited pot of things. And it's like it's very obvious in Cardano. We've got this gigantic treasury, and there's various parties who are all competing for either pieces of that treasury or influence over it. And this is the case with any governance, any form of governance, in any system, in any society, in any group. You're always going to have this, and it's always extremely messy. So you can put endless amounts of energy into it and not solve that problem. So I tend to shy away from the governance topic, especially when we're so early in the process here, because it's such a messy, difficult problem. So maybe that's a short way to put that. But I think governance is very messy, and it's basically the essence of how we allow different factions to compete for slices of a limited pie. I hate to make it sound like a zero-sum game, but that's pretty much the essence of governance, and it's always a messy business. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've been in crypto since before the Mt. Gox meltdown. So I've got some other altcoins. I haven't really since I got into Cardano though. All of my DCAing, I'm definitely like a dollar cost average kind of guy. So all my DCAing has been into Cardano and things within the Cardano ecosystem for a long time. So, but I have, over the years, I've done a lot of buying and less selling. I've definitely I've definitely bought things and then sold them long before they saw their highs. I mean, even before the 2017 highs, I bought Ethereum very cheaply, sold it at 10x, and thought I was a genius. And then it proceeded. So it went from like I bought it at something ridiculous, like 72 cents or something, and then it went to like $19, and I ended up selling it at, I forget what I sold it at, like 12 or 14 or something like that. And I was a genius because I'm far in excess of 10x. I'm the world's greatest investor. And then of course after that, shortly it went to 1400, and I immediately knew I was not the world's greatest investor. So so I have sold some stuff that I bought pretty early, and I've also hung on to a bunch of stuff. So yeah, that's a long answer too. I do hold other altcoins, but I honestly haven't bought much of anything else since I got into Cardano. No, I've had a handful. I forget if it's like five. I think there've been like five live streams, something like that. I should do it more often. I would like to do it more often because I enjoy interacting with everybody. But there've been a handful. Um, Interesting question. Okay, if all 403 AOS episodes were NFTs, which would be the rarest and drive the highest value? Logically, I'd have to say probably episode one. But I, if you ask me like which ones do I think back on the most fondly, maybe there's some of the ones right before the Africa announcement, right before the announcement of the project with the Ethiopian Ministry of Education, because that was really the genesis of the Cardano rumor rundown. It actually started with some posts on Reddit, which continue to this day. In the description box for each of these videos, you'll find a link every day that says companion Reddit thread. And those Reddit threads actually started before the videos started. I started posting on Reddit, and it was literally like the very first item. It's a list of things that are going on in Cardano. And the very first one was about Charles having mentioning the book about identity and the African bird on his desk, and kind of hinting that the mystery project was an identity project in Ethiopia, where that bird apparently is native and common. That was the very first rumor reported in the Cardano rumor rundown, which started as that Reddit thread. And then the Reddit thread grew into the videos, but the Reddit thread has continued to this day. So every single day that there's a video, there's also a Reddit thread. So I think some of those videos, when we finally found out about that first rumor about the identity project, those are some of the ones that I'm like fondest of. There were also a bunch of interesting rumors, like baseless speculation, leading up to the Cardano summit when they announced the Dish Network deal. There were some episodes where there was speculation about who the corporate partner was going to be. I thought those were pretty fun. But man, I'd have to think back. It's a lot of episodes. 400 episodes is a lot, and there's a spectrum. Like some videos I do, and I'm like, I love this video, and a lot of those get like lower views, and then some videos are like, I personally am like, man, I don't like the way this video turned out, and it gets like a huge number of views. So the ones that I love are maybe not the same ones that everybody else loves, but definitely there's a spectrum, and a lot of the videos I love much more than others. Yep, Jane, I totally agree. I also worry we could bring ourselves down if we don't do governance correctly. I think you hit it on the head. It's a dangerous area. You can really screw things up if you do governance incorrectly. Earlier today, I said to someone in that podcast I was on that a lot of things in crypto are like sports, in that the rules make the game, right? If you change one little rule in a sport, it can really change the sport, right? I mean, you can imagine the example of American football. I know a lot of you probably aren't familiar with American football, but if you change one rule and said you cannot pass or you cannot run the ball, it changes the game immensely. Like even what kind of athleticism, you're looking for in the athletes in that game kind of could change, if you change even a small rule like that. So I think it's the same with crypto. I think governance is sort of like the internal rules, and regulation is kind of like the set of external rules, and those rules will make the game. So I agree. Colby, hello. Thank you for joining from Utah. You should turn super chats on so I can send you something. If anybody doesn't know what super chats are, you can make sort of like special comments that are highlighted at the top, and you have to pay for those, and I would get paid. I would love to earn that money, but I just don't. So far, I haven't been able to convince myself I could feel good about it. I like to let everybody sort of comment on an equal basis without the super chats getting special treatment. I would love the money, but I haven't been able to convince myself to do it for the same reason that I don't post my wallet address or let people see what my ADA handles are. Who wins, John Jones or any other human? It depends on which John Jones we're talking about, and like what supplements, what types of supplements he's allowed to take. Are you ever going to dox yourself? Nope. Like some people ask me about this every time. Literally, if people broke in here with firearms, I believe they're still gonna have a hard time getting me to take my mask off. Like that's how extreme my desire to not dox myself is. Like if somebody bursts in that door with firearms right now, they're still gonna have a hard time getting me to dox myself. Let me put it that way. David Perez says, "Got to walk the dogs, Summer and Finn, but love your work, and I'll continue being a foot soldier for AOS." Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Nope, never gonna get it. Never gonna get it. No reveal ever. Okay, sorry, just plugging in here. Muggy says your whiteboard videos are also classics. Thank you. Yes, I know. I am no artist. Artistic talent is not something I have. Drawing is not in my skill set. But thank you for the comment about the whiteboard videos. Okay. Are you surprised the BTC hasn't become a go-to hedge for inflation? And do you think ADA could eventually be seen as a way to hedge against inflation? Yeah, I think anything we would think of as hard money, um, aims to fit those roles. But it depends on your definition of go-to. The question is basically like, why hasn't BTC been adopted more broadly as a hedge against inflation? I think probably if we could see who actually owns all the wallets in Bitcoin, I think we'd be pretty shocked at how big some of the players are, and how much more penetration into really big players BTC has as a holding. So I think it's kind of a go-to already, but it's for those size of players, it's just one part. It's one part, probably a very small part of much very diverse portfolios. Let me put it that way. Okay. Is crypto adoption a regulatory hurdle or a generational hurdle? I actually I'm surprised by how diverse the army of spies is. Um, there are a lot of people who defy stereotypes about their age in terms of crypto adoption. I think I talked to a lot of people in crypto who definitely fit that bill, and they definitely know what's going on in crypto. So I think it's here's what I really think it is. I think crypto is really complicated. I don't think it's really a regulatory hurdle or a generational hurdle. I think it's just complicated. It's hard to understand. Um, it's like I used to give a presentation to various types of groups about crypto. This is before I was even in Cardano. I had a PowerPoint presentation I would give on crypto, And I would start out by explaining super simple stuff like how does Bitcoin work? How does SHA-256 work? Like, how does a SHA-256 hash work? And like literally people would leave the presentation when I started talking about, in very simple terms, how SHA-256 hashes work. Like I would mention like, the word nonce, and people are like, I'm out. So I think there's like it's like anything in finance. Like there's a very large group of people who don't want to know about how any of that kind of stuff works. And if you don't understand how crypto works, it's hard for you to, I think it's hard for some people to embrace it, and they're never going to want to take the time to understand how it works. So that's what I think the biggest hurdle is, honestly. And I actually don't think we can solve it through education. I think the same people who don't want to learn now will also not want to consume a lot of the educational material. So maybe it'll be forced on them when the rest of the mainstream who are willing to learn adopt it. But until then, I think there's just like a large number of people who don't want to learn about crypto, and so they won't embrace it because they will never understand it. This is another one. CP, hey AOS, would you consider receiving funding from Catalyst for your work? Would that be an issue? You do a lot for the community. Oh, thank you for saying that. Same kind of thing. I would feel weird about taking funding from Catalyst. I would kind of prefer that money to go to projects who are building, platforms, like especially if it's like, some kind of platform that has to do with real world stuff. Not even necessarily real fi platforms, those two, but just like real world projects that are going to be fun to use. I'd rather that money go to that than to me. It's like I said before, I don't like to be given money. I like to earn money. The people around me would laugh so hard at this. The people who I know in real life, they literally won't believe me when I tell them about this voiceover thing that came up during this live stream. They'll like laugh and think I'm joking. Just Job, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Thank you. I really appreciate it. My friend just saw you for a second, asked me if you were a Singularity prototype. He thought you were a robot. Maybe I am. Maybe I am. I mean, you guys don't really know, right? I think this would be pretty advanced. Like the linguistics would be pretty advanced. If you could get a robot to talk like this, I think you'd be pretty far along in the robot game. I don't, I can't answer that question because I don't want people trying to dox me, trying to figure out who I am by going back and thinking about the answer to this question. And also, if I want to go to a conference in the future, I don't want people like looking for me and like picking up on my voice or something like that. So I try not to answer that one. Looks like the AI from Westworld. How is the latest season of Westworld? I've kind of been pleasure delaying on that. I like Westworld. I would love to. I'm waiting. I'm pleasure delaying watching the latest episode or the latest season. How is the latest season? Jay Cooper says, "Love your knowledge of various proverbs. Besides the Polish proverb, what's one of your other favorite proverbs?" Probably the one that we talked about earlier today, which is that light is the best disinfectant. I like that one because transparency, especially in crypto, because transparency is such a big deal. Yeah, I've seen the Ada Army name. I actually don't know anything about him though. Baron von Raschke, thank you for delegating. I really appreciate that. Thank you for delegating. Much appreciated. Casper's Cardano Crypt says, "What up, gangsta? I'm running late, just getting here. Thank you for getting here. Come anytime. Late, leave early, whatever. Just glad if anybody can join." Will Norris is giving me an update on Westworld. He says, "I'm 4 episodes in. Don't listen to this if you're gonna think that this is any kind of spoiler." But he says, "Slow start, but gets really good. Tables have turned." Ooh, I'm interested. I'm very interested. Do you think Lace is going to be coming out this year? Man, with anything, any kind of software development, whatever the developers say, whatever timeline they lay out, I say at least double it. If they say it's coming in the next 7 months, plan on it being here in 14 months. And that's not just IOG or Cardano. That's any software development. It's like at least double it, probably triple. So Baron von Raschke makes a good point. How do we get light to work as a disinfectant given the atrocious quality of crypto media like Cointelegraph? This is a good point. Yeah, I would say some of the crypto media does not count as light in that case. It's more like psyops. I think Cardano well, and I definitely agree on this. There is a good measure of psyops going on in the crypto world, and one of the best use cases for that is sort of suppressing adoption of Cardano. There are a lot of reasons for that, but yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of misinformation in crypto media. Okay. Somebody said AOS, what is your favorite metaverse project? I've tried to buy parcels in all of the big ones, all of the major ones, because I can't tell who's gonna make it, who's gonna have a big. What I want is to have a place where all the army spies can get together on Friday nights and we can just hang out. Our little avatars can hang out. We can have drinks, talk about Cardano. I would love to do that. So I'm rooting for all of them to produce good environments for us to do that, but I can't tell who will. So I've been buying parcels in a lot of them. So we'll see. Oh, yep. P says, yep. I wish you good luck on that project. Keep me updated. If you make some progress on that project, please keep me updated. Svin says software development time rule is X3 at least. Yep. Agree. That's probably even more accurate. Mark says, I appreciate the creativity that goes into your show. Can you say something about your process? Yeah, the process is I just I consume Cardano information all day, and then I try to tell a story about it with a theme. And that theme is usually expressed most succinctly in the intro, and then I try where possible, I try to link the different news items together with that theme. So I try not to make it just a random collection of news. I try to express an idea and pick news items, that might be related to that idea, and then there'll be some individual standalone pieces. So it's kind of like the way they used to do X-Files. You know how in X-Files there was like the alien invasion sort of, or alien visitation, kidnapping of the children kind of plot that spanned all the seasons. And then they'd also have like the monster of the week thing where Mulder and Scully would go and, discover some like half human, half insect is like eating people in New Jersey. So every episode I try to have the kind of like aliens are, doing experiments on the children of the elite kind of connected theme stories. And then there's also the monster of the week kind of standalone items that are just notable on their own. So the process produces something in that direction, I hope, at least. Does Ready Player Me have a mask to cover your avatar face for the Friday meetups in the Metaverse? Yes, I confirmed that today. They do indeed have a mask, which covers a mask and an outfit that covers my entire body, so you can't see anything whatsoever. Yeah, Meld has been compared. Samed says, "What do you think of Meld? They haven't made any updates in like 3 months. Do you think it's a rug?" No. I mean, I don't know. I would never want to predict what is a rug and what is not, but my assumption has just been that they've just been working. I think they've just been like heads down working, but I could be totally wrong about that. I don't think I have any special skill set that would allow me to predict, who might be a rug and who might not. But I think they're, I mean, the people in the project are too public. You know what I mean? They're too public. I don't think they could just disappear. They're too public. So, but then again, I'm not guaranteeing that any project ever is not a rug or won't fail, because they could certainly fail. Anybody could certainly fail. What do I think of the James Webb Telescope pics? So I love anything having to do with astronomy or astrophysics or anything like that. I was a little underwhelmed. People were talking about it, like putting it on their computers, talking about how brilliant the imagery was. I was underwhelmed. I hate to say that, because I was so excited, and normally I would support anything like that. I mean, if you know what it is, if you know what you're looking at, then it's interesting no matter what it looks like. But from a purely aesthetic viewpoint, I was underwhelmed. Like, people were talking about how beautiful it is. I think the concept of what you're looking at is very beautiful and interesting and almost romantic in a sense. In term romantic in the sense of humans wondering about their place in the universe, kind of thing. But aesthetically, the images themselves I was kind of like, okay, I don't think this is like, I'm not like I'm mesmerized by the concept, but I wasn't mesmerized by the visual. Okay. I do not hold any privacy coins. I was very tempted in the heydays of Monero. A lot of people were encouraging me to hold Monero and other privacy coins. And I do believe in their use case, but I also kind of knew that they would be, I feared, I'll put it this way, I feared that they would be a heavy target of regulators. I still think that is probably likely to be the case. So I do not hold any privacy coins for that reason. I love that they exist. I think they should exist, but I also feel like they will be targeted by regulators. Okay. Casper says, I'm 53 and all this crypto is really complicated, but it's educational, not generational. Yeah, that's what I found with the Army Spies. I mean, there are a lot of people for sure who defy the generational stereotypes. So yeah, I found that to be the case as well. Okay, Will Norris says, I'm really encouraged by Casper's comment. Yeah, I kind of like all of them. The question from Colby is, are there any other Cardano YouTubers you like? I actually like all of them. Obviously, I'm not into TA. Like, I don't really believe in TA. But even the people in Cardano who do TA, I hear nothing but good things about them. There's nobody in Cardano who has a YouTube channel who I know of being, like having bad intentions or anything like that. And actually, I hear the opposite all the time. All the people I can think of who are in Cardano YouTube, I like occasionally people will tell me they like, maybe work for these people or work with them or something, and they're like, that person is an excellent person. And I think that's something to do with Cardano. I think so far my experience is that Cardano attracts all the right type of people, and I think that's true with Cardano YouTubers as well. Yeah, Paul's awesome. I love Paul. I only know him through his channel and interacting with him here, but yeah, I think he's awesome. William Wise says, I'm 51 and jumped in 2021. Yep. Ray Network. I don't know too much about Ray Network, to be honest. Quantum CPUs and crypto security. I see good outcomes and bad outcomes. Do you keep up with the science? Yeah, a little bit. I covered the recent news out of NIST about the quantum resistant algorithms. I think it's like Charles says. I think we will just adapt to an era of quantum computing with quantum resistant algorithms. This is something we've been waiting for a long time in crypto. Do you think Crips? I kind of like that. Do you think Crips? I kind of feel like we're back in the 1990s, in the gang heyday of the 1990s. Do you think the Crips will ever decouple from S&P and really become a hedge on inflation? I'm waiting for that day. I'm waiting for the day when cryptos decouple from equity securities. That would be from the equity markets. That would be fantastic. Lawrence Yang says, "Hey AOS, longtime fan. Do you think the next crypto cycle will be the cycle of execution for Cardano, RealFi, DeFi? We've had too many false promises in the greater crypto ecosystem." Yeah, I do agree with this. I think false promises is a good way to sum up the crypto journey so far. Not so much with actually, I'm going to say even with Bitcoin. I'm going to go ahead and say that this even applies to Bitcoin. I think the promise that I thought I was being given when I first got into Bitcoin was that it was going to become our money. It was going to become the money we were using. And then the block size war kind of changed that. It became, the narrative shifted to this store of value thing, which was not at all the same as the it's going to be money promise I was given. And then with expressivity with smart contracts and smart contract blockchains with Ethereum, I was imagining all of the real world stuff. I won't even say real fi, but all the real world stuff. And what we got was just DeFi basically, and NFTs, but mainly just DeFi at first. And that's not what I thought we were going to get. So I hope the next crypto cycle will be the cycle of execution for Cardano with RealFi and DeFi, but we'll see. I'm definitely not in the prediction business, but we'll see. Yeah, I think I used to spend in the early days. I spent a lot of time in crypto Reddit, in the various Bitcoin subreddits, and later in r/cryptocurrency. I spent a lot of time in those subreddits. The Bitcoin subreddits played a really big role in the block size wars, so I was all up in that. But yeah, our cryptocurrency is definitely trying to be positive here. I don't spend much time there anymore. I spend almost zero time there now for a lot of reasons, but it's not my favorite place to hang out for sure. Samed Hamdi says, "You remind me of Daft Punk." I think those guys, I could be wrong, but I believe those guys have French accents. I believe the Daft Punk guys have French accents, and they would sound very different from me, at least based on what I think we know about their identities. I could be wrong about that. I'm not an expert, but okay. The bots have found us. Yeah, I'm trying to any bot that comes in here posting undesirable comments, I try to block pretty fast, but they definitely propagate pretty quickly. Yep, I remember when I first heard about the Lightning Network, Baron von Raschke, and exactly like you're describing, Lightning Network was supposed to be used for paying for coffee with BTC by now. Exactly. These are the kind of promises that I thought were being made to me, but definitely haven't bought any coffee with the Lightning Network. No, I would love to see the Brian Armstrong and Lex Friedman podcast. I love Lex Friedman. Lex Friedman is kind of like, to me, a very good combination of the kind of curiosity you see in podcasts. Like he says himself, he's like inspired by the Joe Rogan podcast. And I think Lex Friedman is an excellent combination of the kind of unbridled curiosity you see on the Joe Rogan podcast. It's a combination of that and a very brilliant mind. So I love Lex Friedman in that podcast. I would love to see this Brian Armstrong podcast. I'm almost afraid this is like an old one that I have seen and I forgot that Brian Armstrong was on there. Please tell me this is a new one that I haven't seen, because I would love to watch that. I think Brian Armstrong, there are a lot of things a lot of people hate about Coinbase, but you cannot deny that's a dude who has left his mark on crypto. He's had a big impact on crypto. And I love some of the things he's done. When he decided to make Coinbase a non-political organization, obviously, they're based out of, the Bay Area, and there's definitely a lot of pressure on any company there to be involved in certain political agendas. And him coming out and just declaring that their company would not be a political company, would just be their politics would just be pro crypto and nothing else. I think that was a pretty bold move, and he probably doesn't get enough credit for that. Ooh, Emmanuel. I sometimes fear becoming an ADA maxi because I've watched the legacy financial markets miss BTC because they're fiat maximalists. BTC maxis missed ETH because of it, and now all of them miss ADA. Yeah, so I definitely recoil at the term ADA maxi, just like you do, right? You don't want to be an ADA maximalist because it has connotations of short-sightedness, right? Like you're so focused on one cryptocurrency that you miss out on the next developments. I also don't want to be in that camp. I think what I really believe in are the principles of scientific exploration that we see in Cardano, like open sourced scientific exploration, advancement of the science of cryptocurrencies and smart contract blockchains. I support those kind of principles. It's not that there's anything magical about ADA. It's that I'm a fan of those principles, and the current best manifestation of those principles to me is Cardano. But if something goes wrong with Cardano and some other blockchain better represents those principles, then I would, of course, embrace that new blockchain because I'm a fan of the principles behind the principles which created Cardano. I'm a fan of those principles and Cardano as a side effect of the adoption of those principles. But really what I'm a maximalist of are those principles. And I mean, this is going to sound silly to say it like this, but it's really first principles thinking, right? Like first principles thinking in crypto is what led to Cardano, because they were like, okay, if we're going to be we believe we are doing the science of cryptocurrencies here, so we need to adopt the scientific method. And, the academic scientific approach to advancing that science, that's something that not a lot of other blockchains have done. A lot of blockchains, you kind of want to root for them because it's just like, you feel like it's like a bunch of dudes in their mom's basements, in their parents' basements, I should say. And they're like the underdog you want to root for. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but first principles thinking kind of leads me in the direction of the academic scientific approach to this whole game. And I think the best representation of that is Cardano. Sorry, super long-winded answer. Could you block bots in a decentralized social media, maybe with DIDs? I don't know. Yeah, no, I think with decentralized digital identity, I think it's really easy to block bots if you have legit digital identity. I think you can block bots. Yeah. I personally don't trust Jack Dorsey and what he's saying with Lightning Network. You mean some dude who looks like a wandering wizard? You don't trust some dude who looks like he's straight out of like the medieval period, and he should be wearing robes and have like a long staff in some like misty forest. you don't trust him talking about cutting edge technology. I understand. um, Ed, how's it going? Thank you for being here. Okay, Reaper Crypt, thank you for jumping on. Good to see you. As coffee keeps coming up, do you have a favorite coffee? Mine is medium Kona. I think you probably mean Kona. That's probably just an extra N that got added on by typo, I'm guessing. Kona blend. Yeah, Kona coffee's good. Don't tell us if you think someone will try to dox you with that info. No, I've actually got a link in the description box also for coffee. That is a coffee company that's sort of they you could buy a wide range of coffee from them. I love Central American coffee. I definitely, my default is to drink Costa Rican, Nicaraguan coffee, Honduran coffee, Guatemalan coffee, Panamanian coffee. Definitely am a big fan of Central American coffee. Lately, I've actually gone back to drinking. I haven't drank Colombian coffee in a long time, which is funny, right? Colombian coffee is definitely the country you most associate with coffee if you're in North America. I actually haven't drank Colombian coffee in a long time. I like the pricing of the Colombian coffee they sell. So I've definitely ordered a lot of Colombian coffee from them. So hit them up. If anybody's looking for coffee, hit them up in the description box to this video. They've definitely never let me down. But so lately I've been drinking a lot of Colombian coffee, but prior to that, for years and years and years, I pretty much only drank Central American coffee. Having said that, I do love a lot of African coffees and even a lot of Asian coffees. I've definitely drank kind of a huge amount of Asian coffees. But my kind of default is Central American. Ooh, Connie, interesting question. Hey, AOS, do you think governments in the US and EU will crack down on Bitcoin mining energy use? Seems like a lot of people tend to ignore this issue. I personally feel that EU will do something about it. So, okay. So I think we're seeing how this is going to look, right? So New York recently got really focused on the fact that some Bitcoin mining operations in the vicinity of the Finger Lakes were, I might be screwing up the facts here, but I believe what the case was that they were dumping hot water into the Finger Lakes. And if if you've taken any kind of biology that addressed wildlife ecosystems, you can imagine how dropping hot water, which was being used to like cool equipment, apparently, if you drop hot water into a lake ecosystem like the Finger Lakes, it's going to raise the temperature of the water, which changes what organisms can thrive in that water and can completely alter, the ecosystem. So New York was quick to jump on that, which tells me that they will pretty much use any excuse to jump down the throats of anybody doing any kind of cryptocurrency mining. Then you've got, on top of that, then you've just got the energy use, right? They're using energy from the normal grids in a lot of cases. Sure, some of them are also using sustainable sources of energy, but a lot of them are using energy that they're taking from the grid. And a lot of that energy from the grid is from coal-fueled power plants. so and they're using a huge amount of electricity. This is, I mean, it seems like there's already an agenda to oppose crypto in any way it can be opposed. So if you've also got this fossil fuel issue tied to Bitcoin mining, I think this is a very large obstacle for proof of work. I think this is a really big obstacle for proof of work. I think the proof of work world isn't even, I don't think they've fully cognized how big a problem for them this is. And the maximalists, the BTC maximalists have done a great job of rationalizing, how Bitcoin mining can be turned on at times when there's a low load on the grid, and it can actually cause the development of sustainable energy. They make some great arguments, but when it comes down to it, what's going on today is you've got a bunch of people mining Bitcoin, and a lot of them are just tapping into the grid and taking that coal-fueled energy. So that's going to be a huge problem. It's going to be a huge problem for Bitcoin, and I don't think they can really solve it, because as long as there's cheap coal-fueled energy flowing into the grid and they can tap into that energy, they're going to do it. If that's the cheapest energy, that's the energy they're going to take. So they're going to keep consuming that coal-fired energy. You know what I mean? And policymakers who want to oppose crypto anyways, that's going to be like a great excuse. I think about this all the time, less so these days, but in the early days, I thought about this all the time. David says, what is the impact on crypto someday when any of Satoshi's 1 million BTC Genesis block gets transferred to an exchange? Man. So one of my big fears with the Paul LaRue candidate for Satoshi is that dude is locked up in prison. And at least last time I checked, he was still locked up. One of my big fears was that he was just waiting to get out of prison. If it was him, I'm not convinced it's him, but he's like on the list. He's like on the list of potential candidates that have been put forward by various parties. He's like, a guy who's on the list. And if there's even a, 1% chance it's him, that's like scary to me. So I think it's bad. I think the impact is pretty bad. I think it would be, let's say Satoshi did pop up and he sent all of his BTC to Coinbase and he dumped it on the market. I would hope what would happen is he would just dump it all at once and we'd have like this apocalypse and the markets would get devastated. I would not sell my Bitcoin at that time. I would wait. And even if it took, 5 years for the markets to recover, I would rather it just be like one big thing rather than somebody shows up, proves they are Satoshi and they control those funds and they're like holding that over our heads forever, or that they're just like dripping it into the market. Because the thing that hurts is the uncertainty. Will they dump on us? I would prefer that a Satoshi who pops up just dumps it on us, but it's so much money and it's been hanging out for so long. I feel okay about it. I don't worry about it anymore. Yep. Jack I think is a wandering wizard at this point. Yeah, I've definitely had many variety of instant Asian coffee. The one that I would see the most often was the one with the guy with the old-fashioned executive looking helicopter. It was always like him and his assistant were like getting off the helicopter on the label, and he was always this like gray-haired guy who looked like the stereotypical like older executive. And it was like he was always getting off the helicopter and holding his briefcase. So I always referred to that as helicopter coffee. That was the one that I would see pretty frequently. I've actually had some like, pretty fancy like, single estate, coffee from some very particular areas in Asia that presented some very distinct flavor profiles. But most of my coffee drinking is much, much less highbrow than that for sure. Okay, do you think the current global economic crisis is the case Bitcoin was made for? Will this turn the crypto market around into the biggest bull run of crypto? So that's the dream. That's the fantasy scenario. That's the one I would hope for. But I think we're still too strongly correlated. The problem is so many of the people who hold crypto just take a beating. When the equity markets go down, a lot of the people who hold crypto take such a heavy beating that they end up selling their crypto as well to like recover from those beatings. That's like a very ridiculously oversimplified way of putting it, but just for discussion's sake, I think we're still too much in those times. Like the people who hold substantial amounts of crypto that don't hold substantial amounts of equities, I think those two groups are still too intermingled for there to be the kind of decorrelation you're talking about. But could this global economic crisis we're arguably in now, could it get really, really bad? I'm definitely on the side. I'm definitely on the side of that argument where I'm very open to the possibility that this gets like much, 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 much worse. If that happens, I think everything's in play, right? There a lot of possibilities open up if that happens. If the Chinese real estate crisis gets really bad, and that's just like the catalyst, no pun intended in Cardano, but that's the catalyst for a really bad global economic situation that kicks off a lot of different things. I think a lot of possibilities open up. So I was a big fan of Raoul Pal's what did he call it? The unwinding. I think he called it the unwinding. I was a big fan of his unwinding thesis. When did that first pop up? Was that 2018, 2019? I don't know when he first started talking about those things. He eventually put it all together in one document, but I was a big fan of that. I don't think I've seen this latest thing, the ultimate macro framework. He took such a beating over the unwinding not playing out on the time frame he was kind of predicting, that I didn't want to wade through all the kind of like internet ear beatings he was having to take to see what he was up to lately. So I haven't seen the ultimate macro framework, but in general, I like his thinking. I like his thinking for sure. Okay. Anthony Martinez, thank you. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it, Anthony. Good to see you as always. Okay, Baron von Raschke, not saying this to excuse BTC energies, but where is all the energy going to come from to power these millions of electric cars the governments are subsidizing? This is an interesting topic. So okay, here's my thinking on this. This is a little bit off topic for crypto, and this for some reason this topic gets people really fired up. So no pun intended again, because we're gonna be talking about power plants and what they're firing up. But okay, so you've got all these electric cars running around. We won't address the rare earth metal topic and the exotic substances that have to go into the batteries, but just thinking about the energy consumption, not to build the cars, but for the cars to run around. It's true. They're taking energy off the grid, just like these BTC mining operations we're talking about. And the good argument that the proponents of electric cars make is, hey, fossil fuel cars, dyno cars, they're always going to be spewing carbon emissions into the air. No matter what, fossil fuel car is going to be spewing fossil fuel emissions into the air. With electric cars, over time, they become their emissions go down. The emissions attributable to them go down as we remove emissions from the energy that goes into our grid. So as we take, like coal-fired power plants offline and we, substitute more sustainable energy options and even natural gas, burning power plants, that kind of thing, then those fossil fuel cars, the amount of emissions attributable to the energy they're using goes down. So over time, those are contributing less to fossil fuel carbon-based emissions, whereas that can never be the case for a fossil fuel car. They're always going to burn gasoline and produce emissions. Of course, you could say the same thing about Bitcoin mining. Hey, they're just using electricity, and if you would just get rid of all the coal-fired power plants, maybe even use nuclear energy. If you would just use nuclear energy, then we have a much more sustainable energy source. That also gets people pretty fired up. You could say that about Bitcoin mining as well. But here's the problem. The policymakers, they want to drive around in Teslas. They don't want to use crypto, a lot of them. So they're not going to allow those same arguments for crypto proof of work mining. Yeah, I agree. I agree. As North America and Europe has refused to embrace nuclear, we've got coal. We've got coal power plants. That's the deal. We've also got hydro. In Western North America, we have a lot of hydro power, but largely we've got a lot of it is coal. I agree. It's because we have not embraced nuclear. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an agenda against. There's an agenda against crypto because I think a lot of policymakers look at it like this. We need and are going to have cars or something that looks like cars moving humans around, but they don't think we need crypto. So for them, it's like we're definitely going to have cars and we need cars. So let's have the most environmentally friendly cars. But with crypto, they're not like actually no, I take it back. You can make the same argument about proof of stake. Proof of stake is the electric car versus the proof of work fossil fuel car. So I guess actually even that argument doesn't really help proof of work. Shout out Ethan Paul Martinez. Thank you for allowing your dad to join me on my many YouTube adventures. I do appreciate it, Ethan Paul Martinez. Okay. Yengu88. Who do you think would be a good nominee for a blockchain advisory specialist to advise the President of the United States as directed in the CHIPS Act of 2022 bill? Man. Well, before Gary Gensler actually became the head of the SEC, I thought he'd be a good head of the SEC because he was teaching crypto classes at MIT. So apparently I'm a super bad judge of who should be doing crypto stuff in the government. So you probably shouldn't ask me because I thought Gary Gensler was going to be good because he actually understood crypto. Instead, we got, something else and he understands crypto, which is almost more dangerous. Okay. Yes, very aware and very thankful. Jeff Wilkinson says, "Are you aware that on Wing Riders, the ADA part of the ADA World Mobile Token is delegated to AOS stake pool?" I'm very aware and very thank you. Thank you to everybody who is in that pool over Wing Riders for delegating to the AOS stake pool. I appreciate it very, very much. Jonathan Schaefer, thank you for joining. Joining late is just fine. No worries. SVin, likewise, and thank you for delegating. I appreciate the delegation very much. The use of batteries. So I think we use those as non-automotive batteries, right? We repurpose those as batteries for, people with solar panels on top of the roof, that kind of thing. I think we'll see this a lot with batteries of vehicles like the Nissan Leaf that lose, some of the early generation Nissan Leafs suffer worse battery degradation than we've seen in a lot of other vehicles. I think we repurpose those and we stick, in my opinion, we stick solar panels and windmills on top of every single roof on Earth. I know economically the cost of producing the hardware for that makes that kind of a foolish thing to say. But if we could, I would say we put solar panels and windmills on top of every single roof, and then we repurpose the car batteries to store the energy that those are producing. And then we reuse that for things like the cars, so that the energy being consumed by the cars becomes sustainable energy and it's no longer coal-fired power plants. Okay. Reed, do you think once Cardano has a full array of DeFi and attracts institutional investors, that some institutional investors will leave Ethereum, Solana, and Avalanche and bring that money here? So I think the institutional investors will go wherever their investment is best served. Like honestly, I don't think they have any kind of allegiance to any of these projects. I think they do not care at all. What they care about is they have a thesis, maybe, about where their investments are best going to be served. But at the end of the day, all they care about is where their investment is best served. It's like the mentality is very mercenary. It's not There is no allegiance to any of these projects. It's just where is their investment best served. That's it. Good point. Renee MacArthur. Petrol cars also have a much lower efficiency than a power station, making electric cars much more efficient in the fuel they consume. Very good point. Blockchain in China. Good to see you back. Good to see you again. Watching from Chongqing, China. Thank you for joining. Good to see you as always. Blocking some bots over here. Okay. ICE cars are not a good look. EV and EVTOL is the future. Yep, I agree. I agree. That was a daily meta. I agree with that. AOS space fencer win. I have never seen those two words combined. Space fencer. Win. Obviously a reference to the mask. I love it though. Space fencer. That's pretty good. When long format, how will you handle the OPSEC for via a face mask interview where your guests have to travel 24 hours blindfold to get to your lair? I don't think I'm at the level yet where I can make people travel to my lair. I would love that. If I could make them come in person, I would love that. And I would figure out a way to obscure my identity and still talk to them. The bigger problem is that the audio isn't as good when I'm wearing any kind of disguise that sufficiently disguises me. The audio is not quite as good. So probably what you're going to see is not people being in the same room with me, even though I would love that. It definitely makes for a better conversation, but I think we're going to have to do it over distance. So, and you'll probably just see me as a logo because the audio is a little bit better if I'm not wearing this. Yeah, I agree. It's hard to make wind and solar scale because the hardware is so expensive. Yep, I think nuclear is actually the answer. Nuclear makes sense to me, but seems verboten even to environmental left. Yep. It's I think it's actually us as humans making the wrong choice. I think we're just screwing up. I think we as humans are making a mistake by not embracing nuclear, and the reason is because the failures are so dramatic and traumatic. Nuclear failures are so visible and traumatic. It's like horrible. Whenever this has happened, it's like everyone on the globe is like, oh man, you feel for the people affected because it's so visible and so traumatic. But it also happens very seldomly when we talk about like modern technology employed in nuclear energy. Like it's pretty safe. And the nuclear waste, it's like it can be stored on site. You know what I mean? It can be stored on site in those cask things, and it can just hang out there. You know what I mean? It's not like you're throwing it in the ocean. You know what I mean? It just goes in a cask that can be right there on site. You know what I mean? So I think we're just screwing up as humans. I think we've got to embrace nuclear. That's like the only way. Well, this is good news. Lex and Brian podcast just came out a few days ago. It was a great listen. I would love to listen to it. I wish Brian Armstrong would do more stuff like that. He tweets occasionally, but I wish he would do more stuff like the Lex podcast. I would love to watch that. Thank you. Anthony Martinez, thank you. Thank you for joining as always. My pleasure. Good question. We know about Rare Bloom. My understanding from watching the Charles AMAs was that he handed the 2022 Cardano Summit stuff to the foundation. And I don't know that we've heard anything out of the foundation about this, but I believe that is in the wheelhouse of the foundation now. Okay. Renee MacArthur, over time, more and more crypto owners are going to become policymakers. Right now, younger generations own crypto and ADA. Anyone the same age as Joe Biden is just scared because they don't understand. I agree. I mean, the real problem is people don't understand. It's like, I mean, the Bitcoin subreddit always had this little tagline with a picture of a wizard. It was basically Jack from Twitter. It was a picture of a wizard holding a staff, and it said magic internet money. That's the biggest impediment to crypto adoption, that it might as well be magic internet money. Like, people don't understand. If understanding crypto is to be a crypto person. Once you understand crypto, you will be a crypto person. But it's hard to understand. We're like very early adopters. Casper says, I've gone so crypto, my social security disability check is paid to me in Bitcoin. I've never heard that before. That sounds fantastic. Tesla was looking for a Haskell programmer at one time. Any thoughts on Cardano Tesla collaboration? I think there's a lot of reasons they could be using Haskell and other functional programming languages, just because of the ability to achieve correctness with Haskell programs. Yeah, so I don't think that's necessarily indicative of any kind of collaborating with Cardano. I think Haskell has industrial uses that would be important for Tesla, regardless of anything to do with Cardano. Okay. Caleb, thank you, and thank you for joining today. Oh yeah, what year Leaf have you got? I'm guessing it's a 2015, so that was the that would be the 20 kilowatt battery, and I believe Nissan called that the Lizard battery in 2015 because it was better. The chemistry was supposed to be better for the hot climates where a lot of the early Leaf batteries had failed. So the 20% in 7 years is kind of, yeah, that's kind of on the good end if you think of the Leaf batteries as like maybe on average suffering 3 to 5% degradation, then 20% in 7 years is like, yeah, a little under 3. So you're definitely on the good end of that. I'm guessing you live in a cold climate, right? What kind of climate do you live in? I'm guessing it's not Phoenix. Emmanuel Kanan, Beijing, China here. Thank you for joining from Beijing. Oh, interesting. Okay. Xavier Co. I know printable solar blinds, advert prints is possible in the near future. Proof of stake can totally run off those. Keys can be engineered to our DNA. What's the best way to store passphrases, you think? Yeah, you're combining a bunch of different very interesting ideas there. Um, the best way to store a passphrase, depends on the use case, right? Are you being arrested and thrown into prison for 10 years? If so, the best way to store your passphrase is probably by memorizing a seed phrase, right? It's like there's an, what is it, XKCD? There's an XKCD comic about this. Like the comic instructs you about how, I'm saying comic as in like an old fashioned comic strip. Sort of like a very, very short graphic story, but basically they're telling you the best way to have a password is to just have a bunch of random words. And then the way to memorize it is to concoct a story in your head. I believe in that particular comic, it's like the one they use is like horse battery staple something. And it's like they concoct this story about there being a horse with a battery with a staple in it. And there's like one more word. They want you to use like 4 or 5 words. But I think if you're being thrown in prison, probably just memorizing a seed phrase is the best way to protect your funds there. But for day to day, hardware wallet, 100%, right? Maybe even the hardware wallet, probably the hardware wallet combined with memorizing your seed phrase in the kind of like prison circumstance. So then destroy all your hard copies of it. So don't do it. If you're not going to prison though, do not destroy the hard copies of your seed phrase. I don't want to hear anybody saying they lost all their coin because they destroyed the paper they had their seed phrase on. So don't do that. Don't get mad at me if you try to do what I just said and you're not actually going to prison. Would you swap to DeFi once the staking rewards have? Yeah, I mean it's like what is the it's a question of what is your risk tolerance And what is the lowest risk, best return that matches your risk tolerance? So for me, yeah, things could change down the road, sure. Oh, I love this question. Thank you, Anthony. I think migration is going to happen, but I believe Cardano will have its own everything. How much market share do you think Ethereum will lose to us and other up and coming projects? It's a question. When we think about technological progress and migration from platforms, I always think about the migrations I saw happen real time. You know, like from AOL to other internet service providers, and like from MySpace to Facebook, you know, things like that. I think about those kind of migrations, and it's kind of amazing when you're in the earlier platform, like AOL was so widespread, like everyone was using AOL, and it was so hard to imagine the future where they would be a completely irrelevant player. Same thing with MySpace, right? Like MySpace was everywhere. I remember when I first heard about Facebook, which was really early actually in the history of Facebook. But I couldn't imagine. MySpace seemed so big. I couldn't imagine Facebook taking over, being so utterly dominant over MySpace and it just becoming this completely irrelevant artifact. Um, so I think things change. Things can change really fast. Yeah, like indirectly. Like there are a very small number of people who know me in real life and also know about this channel. But one of them actually had a friend uh tell them about my channel. which they thought was super hilarious. They actually did keep the secret. They definitely did not give up any info about them actually knowing all about the channel. So that's happened. Um I haven't had anybody actually recommend the channel to me, but I've been standing there while someone else recommended the channel to a third person who was standing in front of me, and neither of those two people knew that that was my channel. That's definitely happened. Um, Emmanuel, that is a big negative. No, 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 no. I do not ever plan on doing a face reveal. I know YouTubers love that. YouTubers love to like pretend like they're going to be anonymous for like 6 months, 3 months, like 1 month, and then they love to have this big build up, like we're doing a face reveal. It's face reveal time. I've seen such melodramatic like face reveals on YouTube, but no, I want to stay anonymous forever. I never want to dox myself. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, that was kind of like Toyota's bet. Like Toyota was extremely resistant to EV, and they kind of seemed to think that it would be hydrogen. Hydrogen was going to win. And then last December, you saw Akio Toyota uh, give the big presentation where he showed us like what was it, like 16 different EV prototypes, and the four that looked like they're definitely going to pop up. I think what did they say? They want Lexus to be 100% electric in the markets of Europe, China, and North America by 2030. And they want to have Toyota more broadly. What they want to have like 15 electric vehicles by, it was something really early, like 2025 or something. So I mean, even Toyota, who was super resistant and seemed to be all in on hydrogen as opposed to EVs, even they seem to have given in. And their investment in the investment they revealed toward EVs was something. It was something crazy. Like it was as big as smaller than the amount Volkswagen says it's investing, but equal to the amount GM is investing, which is even more than Ford. So I think EVs are definitely coming. New scales, mini reactor just proven in the US. I don't know too much. I'm actually very, very interested in the actual like the current state of that whole industry. But I actually don't know too much about it at all, to be honest. Very interesting comment, Will Norris. Why can't I sell my Cardano Summit 2021 T-shirt for an equivalent price as the Summit NFTs? Limited supply, right? That's a very interesting commentary on the rarity, kind of the rarity utility of NFTs. Yeah, it's like well put. No, Go says, thanks again for all the great content. Have you ever seen Year Million series by National Geographic? No, I haven't, but I think I know which one you're talking about. I think, aren't they, isn't this the one where they're sort of predicting what things look like in the year 1 million? Or am I confusing that with something else? Yeah, super interested. Super interested in that presentation that Akio Toyota gave in December. I was hoping he would give up more information about Toyota's solid state battery research. He talked about the timeline on which they've been researching it, but he didn't give up as many details as I would have liked. So I would like to. I'm very curious. I would like to see. And I mean, there are EVs that suffer much less degradation than what we were describing with the early Nissan Leaf batteries. So they're kind of an extreme example, especially in certain climates, the very hot climates. Like they're definitely an example of, kind of like definitely the bad end of degradation for sure. Okay. Something, yeah. Nissan is supposed to have something as well in terms of solid state batteries. I actually don't know anything about Nissan solid state battery research. Curious though. This is live. Royden Vickers. This is live. This is happening right now. Yep. 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 Was alive. Yep. Was alive. Was alive during that time for sure. Yeah, I think we would all be very surprised, and we will continue to be very surprised at how many entities were doing all the degen stuff that that got them all in trouble. I think we have not seen the end of that list. I think there will be more names added to that list. Who they are, I don't know. I wouldn't want to speculate. Um, but yeah, I think there will be more names added to that list for sure. Yeah, good point, Emmanuel. Good point. People should remember that the entire crypto market cap is smaller than Apple Computer. We are so early. Cardano could definitely flip Ethereum with mass adoption. Yep, things can change very, very fast. Baron von Rashke, I can't remember how many vodkas I've had tonight. How am I going to trust my memory for my seed phrase? I have mine in a lockbox at a bank. Don't get thrown into prison for 10 years tonight. Oddly, I think those things can go in tandem. Not remembering how many vodkas you've drank and doing something that lands you in prison for like 10 years. I think those things can go in tandem. So don't let that happen to you tonight. I feel this way as well, Sven. You should stay anonymous. Soon anonymity will be a privilege. Very much agree. I think a lot of people underestimate the value of anonymity. Um, in the past, I've had experiences before this whole Army of Spies thing. I've had experiences where losing little bits of anonymity, very small scale experiences where I experienced in a detrimental way small amounts of loss of anonymity, and that was enough of a taste of that to know how much I value it. Graphene batteries will be the next big thing. I keep waiting. I keep hearing about graphene. I keep waiting to experience some product, changing my life through graphene. So that'd be great. I'll be down if graphene changes my life somehow. Oh, easy. Skinwalker Ranch. Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. That's an easy one. So, I mean, it's got unintentional comedy, especially in season 1 when Dragon was like Dragon was like blocking them from doing all the things, all the digging and things they wanted to do, like watching Dragon like added this element of comedy. And then you've got the Travis, the scientist, who's like the voice of reason. And then you got Brandon Fugel flying in his helicopter, like granting permission to start digging. Definitely Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch for sure. Yep, just blocked him. People are telling me to block the bot. Just got him. I don't know, man. I'm not a financial advisor, so I do not know. I think I think I tend not to bet against Elon Musk, but I also would not bet against Bitcoin. So I probably would not bet against either one of those or Cardano. Okay. What is my opinion on the World Economic Forum 2030 agenda? And have you seen the line project that Saudi Arabia is planning? I haven't. So I've seen some some headlines about Saudi Arabia building some city that's going to be like extremely narrow and tall or something. I haven't really read any of that information. World Economic Forum 2030 agenda. This is the you will own nothing, eat bugs, and be happy kind of thing. Yeah, I'm definitely more of a I'm definitely more of an individualist capitalist type. So the you will own nothing thing definitely has sinister overtones to me. I don't know if the eating bugs thing is actually a part of the set of ideas you're talking about, but the eating bugs part I'm actually okay with because I've definitely been in places where, pretty much anytime you're out drinking, there are people on the street selling various types of bugs, which are oddly delicious when you're drinking whiskey late at night. Like getting the bugs from those street vendors is seems like something to be difficult, not palatable, but it's actually quite delicious when you've been drinking whiskey all night. So the eating bugs part I'm okay with. Emmanuel, thank you for jumping on. I appreciate it. They already made a walled city a long time ago. It was called Kowloon. Yep. Okay, here we go. With blockchain, are we sleepwalking into a dystopian matrix or skipping toward a utopian paradise? Paradise, honest answers only. I think it depends on governance. I think blockchains are a tool that can produce either one. Depends on the intention of the people who control the governance. Okay. Thoughts on Pulse Chain and Hex? Uh, definitely, I find Richard Hart, the stuff he's doing lately with the with the he's like playing a character, right? He's playing a character, I think, on social media right now, who is seemingly obsessed with luxury good purchases in like almost the worst taste. So I find that to be like amusing, but um I'm afraid I don't have anything positive to say about the blockchain that he is promoting. Let me put it that way. Vinny Fry, nope, never gonna do it. Never gonna do it. Never going to do a face reveal. What's the most delicious bug you've eaten? Um, I don't want to tell you because I think it'll dox this location um where there was bug eating going on. It's like there's a few I could talk about that wouldn't dox the location, but if I tell you which one I like the most, it kind of doxes the location, so I can't tell you. I've seen okay. Baron von Raschke says, I remember Charles Hoskin telling a story about getting drunk on one of his visits to Mongolia and eating live scorpions with the Mongolians. I have seen scorpions for sale in street stalls, in the same stalls where I bought bugs that I've eaten. But I will admit, I have not eaten any scorpions. And it's because I haven't really done the research on like, so I have like an uneducated perception that might be completely false that scorpions store all the toxin in the very tip of the tail. But I actually haven't done any research to confirm that to myself. And what I don't want to do is eat the part of the scorpion that has toxin in it. Also, I'm pretty familiar with scorpions in general, not as food, but as animals you might encounter. And that's one that's one beast I don't know if I'm comfortable eating. And I think it's because they're arachnids technically, right? I don't think I'm comfortable eating arachnids like spiders. I don't think I'm gonna eat spiders, and I don't think I'm gonna eat scorpions. Smoth coin. I can't tell you that. I can't tell you because it will dox where I go. I think I saw him with a bottle of it. I think I think he actually had a bottle on one of the AMAs, right? I could be misremembering that. Okay, guys, we have reached the 3 hour mark. I think that is like a sensible time to call it good. Any last questions or comments? If anybody's got a really good question, we've devolved to what bugs do we like to eat? That's probably a good point at which to call it good. Oh, there's Andrew. Andrew Wild says, Vinny Fry, it's much more likely he'll become a VTuber using CNFT artwork. Good to see you. Good to see you, Andrew. There's Nikki. Nikki says, thanks for hosting a live stream at this time, AOS. Yep, thank you for joining, Nikki. CP says, have a great weekend, dude. You too. Have a great week. Blockchain Gang says, congrats on a new adventure. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for jumping on. I really appreciate it. Daily Meta says, yo, thank you, AOS. East Coast loves you. Thank you, man. Thank you. Or I don't know if you're a man or a woman, but thank you. Truck Donald says, favorite South Park episode. Thanks for all you do. Man, there's so many. That would be so hard. It's like asking what's the best Rick and Morty episode. There's so many good ones. They're geniuses. They're geniuses, no question. Jokes 25 says good night, Metallic. Will Nora says, take your first sip of the whiskey you poured at the start. All the best, AOS. You're the best. Thank you. Andrew says, sorry, way late. I'll catch the majority on replay. Thanks for everything. Hey, thank you for jumping in, Andrew. As always, good to see you. Good to see you as always. So I appreciate you jumping in late or not. Thanks for jumping in, Smiles. I appreciate it. Svin, thank you for jumping in. Jane, you have a great weekend too. Ricky F, what do you see as the future technology in crypto in 10 years? Oh man, I this thing we're all a part of could go so many places. I can't even speculate. I would have to think about that for like a week. There's so many places we can go with this. I think it's that big. God, Charles, I would want to warm up before having Charles on. He's a tough one. I don't even know what I'd ask the dude. Like, I don't even know what I'd ask him because I've watched so much of his AMA footage. I don't even know what I would ask him. So that would be, I'd have to like really think about what to talk to him about because no matter what, I would feel like I blew the opportunity. You too, Anthony. Have a great weekend. Alto Stake Pool. Catch you Monday as well. Ed, cheers. George Gale, aren't diamond nuclear batteries a thing? I don't know. I don't know. I think I've seen those words together before, but I don't really know. David Perez, thank you for ordering a t-shirt. I appreciate that. Thank you. Ricky, yeah. Hey, baseless speculation is what I do here. That's what we do in the Army of Spies. So I'm glad you love it. Charles wouldn't refuse you. Yeah, I think Charles is very generous with his time when it comes to the Cardano community. So, um, yeah, I think he is very generous with his time when it comes to the community. When are you live next? We'll see. I would like to do these more often. So we'll see. Blockchain in China. Thank you. I can't tell you. I can't tell you. I would definitely want to be. I think I would be a cremation guy, and yeah, there's definitely a spot. There's definitely a spot, but if I tell you, you will know way too much about me. All right, with that, guys, I will sign off. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.